Chapter 870. In fact, there was another alchemy master in Jinling. That was Tianqin Laozu's fifth disciple, Chu Xianting. Moreover, Chu Xuanting's talent in alchemy was not inferior to immortal Xian Fang's. She was also quite famous among the third generation of Jinling's disciples. However, Chu Xianting grew up in the East Sea. After returning to the North Sea with Tianqin Laozu, she was not used to it. In desperation, Tianqin Laozu sent her to the Jingzhe Island in the East Sea. At the same time, when Tianqin Laozu was an elder in the boudoir, he had left many spies. These connections were also handed over to Chu Xianting to manage. Just as Lu Ping expected, enlightened Master Xian Yan's cauldron was also a top-grade cauldron. Moreover, it was the Lin Chuan cauldron that forefather Tian Wu used to exchange for the Na Chuan cauldron from Lu Ping. This made Lu Ping curse. According to immortal Xian Yan's alchemy skills, he was not qualified to use a top-grade alchemy furnace. However, now that Tianqin Laozu had let go of everything, and Tianqin Laozu was in seclusion, most of the things in the elixir pavilion were managed by immortal Xian Yan. It was normal for him to use this top-grade alchemy furnace. The earth-ranked high-grade spirit-gathering flame ignited, and Lu Ping watched as enlightened Master Xian Yan placed the spirit herbs into the cauldron. He was amused. After so many years, enlightened Master Xian Yan had finally succeeded in concocting the spirit-cleansing pellet. Although the spirit-cleansing pill was an authentic late-core forging realm elixir, this was because the spirit herbs used to refine the spirit-cleansing pill were not 3,000 years old. However, it was undeniable that the difficulty of refining the spirit-cleansing pill was comparable to refining elixirs of the half-step Dharma stage. Therefore, alchemists who could successfully refine the spirit-cleansing pill often had the ability to refine elixirs of the half-step Dharma stage. This was a level higher than immortal Xian Jing, who was only qualified to refine elixirs of the half-step Dharma stage. Even so, compared to immortal Xian Yu, immortal Xian Yan was still a lot inferior. When the firmament cauldron was taken out by immortal Xian Yu, the entire square of the elixir pavilion burst into cheers. Heavenly Cauldron Laozu's life treasure cauldron. Perhaps this was the only chance for most of the cultivators present to see a Dharma treasure furnace. Lu Ping frowned. He didn't expect Fornax Laozu to give the firmament cauldron to Taoist Xian Yu. It seemed like Fornax Laozu had high expectations for Taoist Xian Yu. However, as Reverend Xian Yu smiled apologetically, the puzzled Lu Ping abruptly widened his eyes. A noun from a distant memory rushed into Lu Ping's mind and magnified in his eyes, turning into the word F***CK. If the crimson flame burning in Reverend Xuan Yue's hand was not the crimson spirit flame that Lu Ping had obtained from Fornax Laozu, what else could it be? The fresh divine sense imprint clearly told Lu Ping that this crimson spirit flame was without a doubt the same crimson spirit flame that Lu Ping gave to the Forsaken Sky Cauldron Grandmaster a few days ago. Taoist Xian Yu seemed to have expected that Lu Ping would be in a bad mood at this time. He hurriedly walked to the square and under the fervent gazes of many cultivators, he started the firmament cauldron and began to refine the pill. Bell Cauldron Pill. The pill that Taoist Xian Yu refined made Lu Ping a little surprised. In this kind of occasion, the alchemy grandmasters would definitely refine the pill that they were extremely confident in. Otherwise, if they failed, it would be too shameful. Taoist Xian Yu refined Fornax Laozu's famous pill on the spot. This clearly showed that he was certain that he would succeed. If this was the case, his alchemy skills were indeed higher than Taoist Xian Yan's. It was no wonder that Fornax Laozu would give him the firmament cauldron. Although the Bell Cauldron pill was only a half-step core forging pill, it was more difficult to refine than the spirit cleansing pill. Its reputation in the North Sea was like thunder to the ears. It was one of the best healing pills in the entire North Sea's cultivation world. When Taoist Xian Yu's Bell Cauldron pill entered the cauldron, all the cultivators in the square began to focus their attention on Lu Ping, who was sitting at the head of the table. Originally, about 60% of the cultivators who came to watch the Elixir Conference had come because of Lu Ping, the Water Sword Deity, Alchemy Grandmaster, and defeated Dharma Laozu. They did not understand alchemy at all, and they did not understand the level of the alchemy skills displayed by the alchemy masters present. The number of alchemy masters who had truly seen Lu Ping display his alchemy skills at the Grand Master level was less than 20%. The rest of the cultivators were the so-called dabblers, watching the show while watching the alchemy. However, for the people present, this elixir conference was already a worthwhile trip. In addition to the various types of spirit fires of heaven and earth, no one expected that this elixir conference would have 2 top-grade alchemy cauldrons and 1 Dharma stage alchemy cauldron. In addition, there were rumors that Taoist Lu Xianping also controlled a magic treasure alchemy cauldron, which meant that this elixir conference would have 2 Dharma stage alchemy cauldrons. Just this alone was enough for the cultivators present to boast in front of others in the future. How many magic treasure alchemy cauldrons were there in the entire North Sea? Before Jinling's heaven cauldron appeared, the only magic treasure alchemy cauldron known in the entire North Sea was Xianling's sixth sea boiling cauldron. Now, there were 2 magic treasure alchemy cauldrons, and these 2 cauldrons were owned by Jinling. The meaning behind this was that benevolent people see benevolence, and wise people see wisdom. Under such circumstances, Lu Ping naturally would not pass on this responsibility. The bronze-colored Na Chuan cauldron appeared in the center of the square with a trace of roughness and solemnity from ancient times. For a moment, even the heaven cauldron controlled by Taoist Xianwei was overshadowed by it. A real alchemist could sense the difference between the two. The alchemy cauldron also depended on the foundation. Although both the Na Chuan cauldron and the heaven cauldron had only condensed 1 treasure prohibition, the Na Chuan cauldron undoubtedly had a stronger foundation. The predecessor who refined the Na Chuan cauldron had already left enough room for future improvement for the heaven cauldron, while the heaven cauldron had already reached its end. The appearance of the Na Chuan cauldron finally confirmed a rumor circulating in the North Sea's cultivation world. Jinling really controlled 2 magic treasure alchemy cauldrons. Jinling's foundation was really surpassing Xianling's sect bit by bit. Although there had long been rumors that Xianling's sect had received secret help from the Crystal Palace, and seemed to be working on upgrading the sea boiling cauldron or another top-grade alchemy cauldron to the magic treasure level, this news had never been confirmed. What elixir is Jinren Lu Xianping going to refine? It must be a Dharma-level elixir. Jinren Lu is a master alchemist. What kind of heaven and earth spiritual fire will he use? Maybe a heaven-level one. Both Jinren Xianwei and Jinren Xianwei used earth upper-grade spiritual fire. Jinren Lu is a master, of course he is stronger than them. That might not be the case. After all, Jinren Lu is still young. With more than 100 years of cultivation time, how much foundation can we hope for him to accumulate? A earth upper-grade spiritual fire at most. In the anticipation of the crowd, a silver-white strange flame slowly rose from Lu Ping's palm. The surrounding discussions suddenly quieted down. What kind of flame is this? It's so warm. Why do I feel that it has no power at all? Exactly. Look at the power of the heaven and earth spiritual fire when the masters made their moves. The heat wave of the fire swept over, and the temperature of the entire elixir pavilion square was rising. Not only the surrounding cultivators, but many alchemists also looked at Lu Ping with puzzled eyes. However, these alchemists were not questioning the spiritual fire in Lu Ping's hand like the other cultivators. It was because they did not know this kind of spiritual fire at all. Although the power of the heaven and earth spiritual fire suitable for alchemy was weaker than that suitable for crafting weapons, the word weak was relative. None of the real heaven and earth spiritual fire was weak in the eyes of a real expert. The difference was only in the person using it. Not only these ordinary alchemists, but also among the 8 alchemy grandmasters controlling the flame, Taoist Xian Fang and the other 2 grandmasters from the affiliated forces were also looking at the flame in Lu Ping's hand with puzzled eyes. When the other 3 masters, Taoist Xian Yen, Taoist Xian Jing and Taoist Xian Yu saw the heaven and earth spiritual fire in Lu Ping's hand, their faces simultaneously revealed a shocked expression. Taoist Xian Yu had obtained Lu Ping's red spiritual fire from Fornax Laozu, but Fornax Laozu did not tell him that Lu Ping had obtained the silver spiritual fire. At the same time, Taoist Li Yan also recognized the heaven and earth spiritual fire in Lu Ping's hand. Looking at this person's expression, Lu Ping was a little surprised. It seemed that this person's inheritance was also not bad. His vision and knowledge were not bad, but he did not have the support of a big force behind him. That broken high-grade alchemy furnace was fine, but that profound-grade spiritual fire was a little lacking. Taoist Xian Dian was also puzzled at first, but after a moment, he seemed to remember the origin of the flame in Lu Ping's hand. Suddenly, like Taoist Xian Yan and the others, his face was full of amazement. The silver spiritual fire was really an extremely rare spiritual fire among the heaven and earth spiritual fires. Martial nephew Lu, this flame, could it be? Seeing that Taoist Xian Yu was about to ask, the cultivators watching the ceremony all pricked up their ears. The expressions of the several alchemy grandmasters present were all seen by everyone. How could they not know that this seemingly ordinary flame that Taoist Lu Xianping took out must certainly have a great origin? However, Taoist Xian Yu said, "Could it be?" For a long time, perhaps because he did not want to reveal the details of Lu Ping, in the end, he did not say the name of the flame, causing many of the cultivators present to secretly curse at him. Lu Ping nodded and said with a smile, "Martial uncle's guess is correct, this is the silver spiritual fire." Although Taoist Xian Yu did not think that Lu Ping would say the name of the spiritual fire, but hearing that it was indeed the strange spiritual fire he had guessed, he could not help but sigh and said, "So it is." When the other alchemy grandmasters heard about the silver spiritual fire, their expressions changed. Even Taoist Xian Fang and the others did not recognize it, but they had definitely heard of this famous alchemy flame. Soon, the alchemy grandmasters who had heard of the silver spiritual fire cried out in surprise, and the name of the silver spiritual fire spread to all the cultivators present. Most of the cultivators did not know the specific function of the silver spiritual fire, but just the words, "Heaven rank middle grade," was enough for many of the cultivators present to praise it for a long time. Lu Ping stretched out his hand and drew a line in front of him. 20 to 30 white jade boxes that were specially used to store spiritual herbs appeared in front of him. Een spirit leaf, 9 crooked ginseng, star anise root, yellow forest bark. Every time Lu Ping took out a 3,000-year-old spiritual herb from a jade box, the alchemy grandmasters present would shout out loudly. However, when Lu Ping took out nearly 33,000-year-old spiritual herbs in a row, including the alchemy grandmasters, no one could guess what Dan Lu Ping was going to refine. Chapter 871. Lu Ping raised his head to look at the sky. There were no clouds in the sky, and a cool breeze was blowing gently. However, because of the heaven and earth spiritual fires in the Pill Pavilion Square, even though the alchemists tried their best to restrain it, the cool breeze turned into a heat wave. Lu Ping looked at enlightened Master Xian Yu, who was controlling the heaven cauldron on the square, and a trace of displeasure flashed across his heart. Although Fornak's cauldron ancestor had told him about his plan, Lu Ping still had some doubts about the crimson spirit flame being exposed so early. It seemed that advancing to the Dharma manifestation stage was imminent. If Yen Wujiu and Luan Yu's plan succeeded, then the origin of the red spiritual flame could be explained to them. Otherwise, whether it was Lu Ping or Zhenling, they did not want to have such a strong opponent like the Fire Phoenix clan in the East Sea. On the square, hundreds of divine senses were intertwined. The pill competition was a rare opportunity for alchemists to show their alchemy skills. The alchemy masters opened their cauldrons one after another, so that they could stagger the time of refining the elixirs. It was convenient for the many alchemists present to verify with each other and learn different alchemy skills and experience. Half a day passed quickly, and the alchemy masters on the square had reached the time to open their cauldrons. The first to open the cauldron was not enlightened Xian Fang, but Master Li Yanshan. Lu Ping saw it clearly from the side. It was not that he wanted to open the cauldron now, but because his cauldron was too old, the spirit qi and pill qi were leaking. If he did not open the cauldron now, the speed of refining the elixirs would not be able to keep up with the speed of the loss of the elixirs. A mid-core forging elixir was comparable to enlightened Xuanfeng's ancient glass elixir. 5 elixirs were produced in one cauldron, so the success rate was not bad. Immediately after, enlightened Xuanfeng's ancient glass elixir was also out of the cauldron. Before the 6 ancient glass elixirs flew too far from the cauldron, they were all sucked into a jade bottle by enlightened Xianfeng. Because of Grandmaster Li Yanshan, many of the Zhenling cultivators present cheered when they saw enlightened Master Xianfeng taking out one more pill. Taoist Master Xianfeng, on the other hand, felt a little awkward. He knew that if Taoist Master Li Yanshan's pill furnace was not too shabby, his success rate might not have been reduced by 10%. If the spiritual fire in his hand was also upgraded to earth rank, Taoist Master Xianfeng was not confident that he could beat him in alchemy. Perfected Li Yanshan, on the other hand, was unperturbed. He merely smiled at perfected Xianfeng's apologetic gaze. Lu Ping saw all of this. Immediately after, Taoist Master Xian Dian and the 2 external alchemists also opened their cauldrons. Although the 3 of them were much more experienced in alchemy than Taoist Master Xianfeng and perfected Li Yanshan, even though they were all in the middle stage of the core forging stage, the quality and success rate of their pills were better than Taoist Master Xianfeng and perfected Li Yanshan. However, Lu Ping did not see any spirituality in the 3 of them like Taoist Master Xianfeng and perfected Li Yanshan. This meant that the 3 of them had basically no chance of improving their alchemy skills. Taoist Master Xianfeng and perfected Li Yanshan's alchemy skills still had a lot of room for improvement. Soon, it was time for Taoist Master Xianjing to open his cauldron. 3 illusionary pills flew out of the cauldron in a row. This made Taoist Master Xianjing very satisfied. If he had used a high-grade cauldron to refine the illusionary pills in the past, he would only be able to produce 2 pills at a time. Although he had used a top-grade cauldron this time, a large part of the reason was that his alchemy skills had improved significantly. The illusionary pills had a 30% success rate. This meant that he could at least ask his master, Tianlu Laozu, to refine elixirs that were half a step into the Dharma stage. However, he was a little worried. This time, it was obviously because he had Tianqin Laozu's top-grade cauldron in his hands. After this, he would have to return the cauldron. Taoist Master Xianjing knew that when Tianling Laozu and Tianlin Laozu had turned against each other, Tianqin Laozu had been unhappy with him. It was only because of their old friendship that he had lent the cauldron to him. If he were to borrow it again in the future, it would not be so easy anymore. Putting away the cauldron and the spirit fire, Taoist Master Zhenling waved his hand at the cheering disciples around him. Taoist Master Xianjing looked at Lu Xianping, who was controlling the silver spirit fire to refine elixirs leisurely. What kind of elixir was this guy refining? Taoist Master Xianjing was not the only one who had this question. Almost all the alchemists present had the same question. What kind of elixir was Grand Master Lu Xianping refining? Taoist Master Xianyan's spirit cleansing pill was finally about to be refined. This kind of high-grade elixir had the same effect on late core forging adepts. In Taoist Master Xianyan's Linchuan cauldron, he had also achieved a 30% success rate. Under normal circumstances, a cauldron of elixirs would only contain 10 elixirs. The common rule of the Zhenling sect was to achieve at least a 30% success rate for elixirs to be considered qualified. Therefore, Taoist Master Xianjing's illusionary pills had reached a 30% success rate. He was now qualified to refine elixirs that were half a step into the Dharma stage. Taoist Master Xianyan had also achieved a 30% success rate. This meant that he could finally refine the spirit cleansing pill. Taoist Master Xianyan did not like Lu Ping either. However, it was just a simple dislike. It was not like Taoist Master Xianjing, who hated him to the point of scheming against him. However, he also had some doubts about the elixir that Lu Ping had refined. It was not only because of the mysteriousness of the elixir, but also because of the silver spirit flame. It was said that although the silver spirit flame could increase the success rate of elixirs, the amount of inner yuan required to control the spirit flame was double that of a normal spirit flame. The time required to control the spirit flame was also double that of a similar elixir. In this way, using the silver spirit flame to refine a cauldron of elixirs would consume 4 times the amount of inner yuan compared to a normal cultivator. Would this guy be able to withstand it? If there was a situation where he ate elixirs and used spirit stones to replenish his inner yuan, then he would become a laughing stock. Taoist Master Xian Yan's level was higher than Taoist Master Xian Jing's level of Schadenfreude. At the very least, he would consider that if Lu Ping really made a fool of himself, he would be touching Jinling's own dark side. Compared to the mystery of Lu Ping's elixir, Taoist Master Xian Yu's Zhong Ding elixir was much more attention-grabbing. After all, the Zhong Ding elixir was the elixir that made Tianlu Laozu famous in the past. Although it was only half a step to the Dharma stage, the core forging stage and Dharma stage cultivators who had survived all these years because of the Zhong Ding elixir were not the only ones in Jinling. There were also many people from other sections. This had given Jinling a lot of favors and reputation. What's more, there was also the Firmament Cauldron, the #1 cauldron of Jinling in name. As for the red spirit flame, although very few of the cultivators present knew about it, Lu Ping had to prepare for the worst. Although he roughly knew about Tianlu Laozu's plan, in reality, he was not optimistic about it. After all, the red spirit flame had a lot of implications. If there was really a misunderstanding with the Fire Phoenix race, he hoped that Yan Wujiu and Wan Yu would have enough weight to help him. Taoist Master Xian Yu was a little surprised that the 4 Zhong Ding elixirs were out of the cauldron. This meant that he even had the qualifications to start refining the Dharma stage elixir. He was already a genuine alchemy grandmaster. This was not something that a half-step grandmaster could compare with. The latter was usually just a way to elevate others, but Taoist Master Xian Yu was the real alchemy grandmaster. All he lacked was the last Dharma stage elixir. Lu Ping was still refining his elixir leisurely. Until now, the mysterious elixir refined in the Na Chuan cauldron did not seem to have any signs of solidifying. What kind of elixir was this? As time slowly passed, the number of Jinling cultivators who came to the square to watch the ceremony did not decrease. Instead, it increased. Now, it seemed that all the Jinling cultivators who stayed behind in Tianling Mountain knew that Taoist Master Lu Xianping was refining a mysterious elixir. Everyone in the square was looking forward to the final mystery being revealed. No one showed a trace of impatience, including cultivators like Taoist Master Xian Jing who had a grudge with Lu Ping. Lu Ping raised his head and looked at the sky. Unknowingly, wisps of clouds had drifted over and covered the sun that was already slanting in the west. As Lu Ping was the only one left in the square, the previously bustling scene seemed a little cold. The breeze brought a hint of coolness. Lu Ping nodded in his heart. It seemed that it was almost time to solidify the elixir. However, it was his first time refining this kind of elixir. He really did not know what the success rate would be. Although it was only an early-stage Dharma realm elixir, even if he did not use the purple crystal royal jelly, he still had a success rate of more than 40%. However, if something went wrong, he would really be overreaching himself this time. It's solidifying! It's solidifying! The cultivators in the square who were watching were suddenly shocked. Hundreds of divine thoughts and divine senses surged into the Na Chuan cauldron, but they obediently left enough space. They did not dare to interfere with Lu Ping's divine thoughts in controlling the process of solidifying the elixir in the cauldron. Another half an hour passed. According to the normal alchemy process, it was already the final time to open the cauldron. The rich fragrance of the elixir had already filled the entire elixir pavilion square. It's time to open the cauldron. If we don't open it now, it looks like it's going to rain. Many cultivators in the square saw that the sky had gradually darkened. Jinling's mountain defense formation would not block out ordinary weather like wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. It can't be, until now, there are still 10 elixirs in the cauldron. A cultivator exclaimed in a low voice. At this time, many cultivators realized that until now, there were still 10 elixirs in the Na Chuan cauldron that had gradually solidified, and none of them had been destroyed. Grandmaster Lu Xianping is really amazing. He can even have a 100% success rate of Dharma Realm elixirs. No, this is too strange. Dharma Realm elixirs have a 100% success rate, and none of them have been destroyed. Is it possible? Didn't you see that the few masters on the square are frowning? Even they don't believe it. Indeed, although it is an early-stage Dharma Realm elixir, who has ever heard of a 100% success rate? I'm afraid that only alchemists who have achieved the Divine Soul stage can achieve this. Boom! A muffled thunder suddenly sounded in the sky, and the whole world became even darker. At this moment, Lu Ping's slightly squinted eyes suddenly lit up. With the last hand seal, he pushed the cauldron toward the cauldron. The lid of the Na Chuan cauldron floated up, and 10 elixirs flew out of the cauldron. 10! It really is 10 elixirs, a 100% success rate! Someone in the square suddenly shouted. However, before the cultivators in the square who were watching the ceremony could be in an uproar because of this exciting moment, the dark clouds in the sky were suddenly torn apart by a green light, followed by a muffled thunder. The green light zigzagged and suddenly hit the 10 elixirs that were escaping in all directions. There was a sudden exclamation in the square. Many cultivators watched as 6 of the 10 elixirs exploded on the spot. Although the remaining 4 were lucky enough to escape, the outer layer of the elixirs was covered with a layer of purple. Chapter 872. Tainted elixirs, tainted elixirs! Many alchemists cried out in alarm, and several alchemy grandmasters on the scene also showed expressions of regret and pity. Only Taoist Xian Jing had a trace of schadenfreude hanging on the corner of his mouth, which also made Taoist Xian Yan a little unhappy. When the alchemy furnace was taken out of the furnace, it was invaded by external evils, causing the essence of the elixir to change and lose its original effect. This was usually called a tainted elixir. The power of the green lightning that fell from the sky was not very strong. An ordinary core forging adept would be able to easily block it. It was just that it happened so suddenly, and the lightning was so fast that outsiders could not intervene at all. As the alchemist, Lu Ping was the most likely person to block the lightning. Unfortunately, at that moment, immortal Lu Xianping seemed to hesitate and did not plan to intervene at all. Just when everyone felt that it was a pity, they saw Lu Ping suddenly show a look of joy. Under everyone's puzzled expressions, he took out a jade essence bottle and collected the 4 purple elixirs that were still flying around in the sky. These 4 elixirs were all collected by Lu Ping into the jade essence bottle. Jade essence bottle? The alchemy masters were stunned. Could it be that this elixir had other uses? Just when everyone was looking at each other, Lu Ping was acutely aware of the sudden arrival of a strong divine consciousness. Then, several late core forging adepts present, including Lu Ping, Xian Yan, and Xian Yu, could feel that this familiar divine consciousness came from Tianlu Laozu. Just when everyone was puzzled, another 3 divine consciousnesses came from several important caves on Tianling Mountain. They were Tianling Laozu, Tianqin, and Tianshan Laozu. At this time, even the slowest person could already tell that the 4 elixirs that seemed to have been tainted by Lu Ping were not simple. However, while the crowd was still unaware, Lu Ping's divine will was able to detect that there were actually 2 other faint divine wills observing the situation. It was just that the level of training of these 2 people was too high. Other than Lu Ping's divine will, which was almost comparable to the mid-Dharma stage, no one else was able to detect them. Tianfan Laozu had already left for Jingzhi Island. Lu Ping knew that one of the 2 strands of divine sense belonged to Tianlin Laozu, while the other belonged to Tianxiang Laozu. Reverend Xianwei was astonished when he saw the calm expression on Lu Ping's face. Could it be that the green lightning-tainted pill was purposely caused by Lu Ping? Just as Reverend Xianwei was about to open his mouth to ask, he saw a space door suddenly appear in front of Lu Ping. Tianlu Laozu stepped out and looked around. The whispers in the surroundings immediately disappeared. A few of the most respected alchemy masters were about to step forward to greet him, but they saw Tianxiang Laozu's gaze fixed on Lu Ping. He said, "The purple sun thunder tempering pill?" Lu Ping hesitated for a moment. He knew that the commotion today was too big. Anyone who was observant would most likely be able to guess something after hearing about it. There was no way to hide it. Thus, he nodded and said, "Reporting to Uncle Master, it is indeed." Tianlu Laozu was about to say something, but his expression changed slightly. Lu Ping's divine will could clearly sense that a strand of divine will had suddenly appeared beside Tianlu Laozu. It seemed to be conveying some kind of message. "Give it to me!" Tianlu Laozu directly stretched out his hand. Lu Ping knew that today's matter was a bit big, so he obediently handed over the jade essence bottle. Tianlu Laozu took the jade essence bottle and seemed to hesitate for a moment. In the end, he couldn't help but ask, "Where did you get the pill recipe?" Lu Ping chuckled and said, "It was a coincidence." Tianlu Laozu knew that Lu Ping was unwilling to say, so he didn't force him. He just nodded, turned around, and disappeared into the space door. At this time, although the alchemist's present still didn't know what kind of spirit pill this Purple Sun Thunder Tempering Pill was, the two words, tempering thunder, as the name suggested, made it clear that this spirit pill was not a dirty pill. It was intentional by Lu Ping. The lightning that fell from the sky should be a necessary part of this spirit pill's formation. The appearance of Lu Ping's Purple Sun Thunder Tempering Pill, although there was no cheering from the Zhenling disciples, the shock it brought was far more than what the previous masters could compare to. Even if they joined forces, it might not be as shocking as the green lightning that Lu Ping had released when he opened the cauldron. An alchemist Grand Master was indeed an alchemist Grand Master. The pill he refined was so big that even Tianlu Laozu was alarmed. This pill must be extraordinary. This was what ordinary cultivators and alchemists could think of. What kind of spirit pill was this Purple Sun Thunder Tempering Pill? How come no one had ever mentioned it before? It seemed that Tianlu Laozu must have known about it. Moreover, the spirit pill attracted the attention of the Zhenling disciples and Laozu. This pill must be extraordinary. This was the guess of the alchemy masters. Even Tianlin uncle and Tianxiang uncle, who were concentrating on preparing for the first thunder tribulation, were alarmed. It seemed that the pill recipe obtained from Fan Yuqing was real. They didn't expect that the legendary pill among the alchemy masters really existed. But where did Fan Yuqing get it? They didn't know if the Taishan sect also had this kind of pill. Lu Ping secretly pondered. This time, he seemed to have been a bit rash. Refining this kind of pill in this kind of situation, although it confirmed his guess, he was afraid that the secret could not be kept. Reverend Xianwei hesitated for a moment, but looking at the hundreds of inquiring eyes around him, he knew that if he didn't ask for guidance, this would not be easy to get through. So he asked Lu Ping loudly, "Nephew Lu, what kind of spirit pill is this Purple Sun Thunder Tempering Pill? What kind of miraculous effects does it have that Master Tianlu personally came here?" Lu Ping knew a little about Reverend Xianwei and smiled. "Reporting, Master Xianwei, this is an early Dharma spirit pill that I obtained. It has many miraculous effects for early Dharma adepts. It can be considered one of the better early Dharma spirit pills. It's just that the conditions for refining this spirit pill are too strange, and it has been lost in the world of practitioners for a long time. This time, I found this pill recipe by accident. I didn't believe it at first, but I wanted to verify it at the alchemy exhibition. Who would have thought that it would cause such a big commotion? Tianlu Laozu must be excited to see it. After all, this spirit pill has been lost for thousands of years." "Oh!" Reverend Xianwei had a look of realization on his face, but in his heart, he was still doubtful. If it really was a lost spirit pill, then it would make sense for Tianlu and Tianqin, the two of them, to come here. But how could it have attracted Tianling and Tianshan? This did not make sense, as these two were not alchemists. It seemed like the problem was with the green lightning. The question was, could it be that the green lightning had started to gather when Lu Ping opened the alchemy furnace, all for the moment when the spirit pill came out of the furnace? Reverend Xianwei raised his head to look at the sky. The dark clouds were still gathering, and a drizzle had already started to fall. Not only Reverend Xianwei, but the other alchemists were also doubtful of what Lu Ping had said, but they did not dare to ask further. Reverend Xian Yuan Dian saw everything clearly from the side, so he quickly said, Good, the alchemy exhibition is over. All alchemists must go back and carefully comprehend it. I hope this alchemy exhibition will be of some help to everyone's alchemy skills. Tomorrow, the Pill Pavilion's examination will officially begin. Everyone, go back and prepare yourselves. After everyone left, Lu Ping went straight to Tianlu Laozu's cave mansion. As soon as he entered the cave mansion, he saw Tian Xiang, Tianlu, Tian Ling, Tian Lin, Tian Shan, and Tian Qin. The 6 alchemists who stayed behind to guard Tianling Mountain were all present. Only Tianjiang Laozu was still in the artifact refining hall, and Tianshu Laozu was also absent. Lu Ping chuckled and quickly stepped forward, bowed, and said, "Disciple greets everyone, Laozu greets teacher. Glib tongue, stand properly." Tianling Laozu shouted. Lu Ping couldn't help but straighten his face, and bowed with his head lowered. "Let me ask you, where did this purple sun lightning tempering pill come from?" Tianling Laozu saw that Lu Ping was obedient, so he restrained his sternness, but still asked in a deep voice. Lu Ping replied, "Reporting to teacher, I got it from the Supreme Profound Sect's direct disciple, Fan Yuqing. I have already reported this matter to teacher and Uncle Master Tian Xiang." The other alchemists all looked at Tian Xiang Laozu, who was sitting in the seat of honor. Tian Xiang Laozu nodded slightly. Tianlu Laozu opened his mouth and asked, "I believe you also know the function of this purple sun lightning tempering pill, right?" Lu Ping smiled and said, "I know, but I don't believe it." "So you wanted to verify it at the alchemy assembly? How can you not think about it? If you fail, you will lose face. If you succeed, you will cause such a huge commotion, and the secret of the purple sun lightning tempering pill will not be kept." Tianlu Laozu was extremely displeased. This reprimand could already be considered severe. The second-generation disciples of Tianling, Tian Shan, Tian Qin and the others did not say anything else. Lu Ping smiled and said, "Disciple has carefully studied the pill formula and found that there are no loopholes in the entire pill formula. Just from this point alone, disciple is still confident." Lu Ping's words were extremely confident. Tianlu and Tian Qin Laozu would not doubt him. After all, they were all great alchemists. Especially since Lu Ping could actually produce this purple sun lightning tempering pill, his alchemy skills were probably not below those of the two of them. If he could not even distinguish the authenticity of a pill formula, then it would be too much of a joke. The only thing this disciple doesn't understand is the final lightning tempering segment. It's a bit too exaggerated, so this disciple wants to give it a try. Even if I fail, at least I can guarantee that the pill will be formed, and others won't be able to tell anything. The only thing I didn't expect was that this pill formula was so strange that it actually attracted a bolt of green lightning. At this point, even Lu Ping smiled bitterly. It was not just a green bolt of lightning. This green bolt of lightning obviously contained the aura of a lightning tribulation. Although this aura was so weak that it was almost negligible, any news of a lightning tribulation would be sensitive enough to attract the attention of any Dharma adept. This was also why the moment the purple sun lightning tempering pill was formed, almost all the Dharma adepts on Tianling Mountain sent their will down. Even Tianlin Laozu and Tianqin Laozu, who were in seclusion, were no exception. Chapter 873. Tianlu Laozu's face was still pale. Tianling Laozu said, "Master, although this purple sun thunder tempering pill is said to be helpful for cultivators to pass through the thunder tribulations, in reality, even if it is helpful, it is only a drop in the bucket. It is very limited. It is only because this pill is the only one that can help in passing through the thunder tribulations in the world of alchemy. That's why it is so famous. This pill is really exaggerated." Tianlu Laozu snorted coldly and said, "How could the old man not know that this pill is exaggerated? Are you talking about what the old man told you in the past?" Tianqin Laozu was embarrassed by Tianlu Laozu's words and stopped talking. Tianlu Laozu looked at Lu Ping and said, "No matter how weak this pill is, it is still helpful for cultivators to pass through the thunder tribulations. This is something that no one can deny. Do you know that this alone is enough to attract the greed of many Dharma adepts? Tianxiang Laozu suddenly asked. What are your plans after the Elixir Pavilion's examination? Lu Ping thought for a while and said, I will go to Frost Island and then find a place to go into seclusion. Tianxiang Laozu nodded and said, That's good. You go and hide for a while. The matter of the purple sun thunder tempering pill can be big or small. It depends on the situation. Tianlu Laozu threw the jade essence bottle to Jiang Tianlin Laozu and said, Take it. Although this thing is exaggerated, it will help you pass through the thunder tribulations. Tianlin Laozu took the jade essence bottle and smiled. Thank you, Uncle Master, but I am quite confident that I will pass through the thunder tribulations this time. Leave this pill with Uncle Master. Although everyone was shocked, they also thought that it was reasonable. Ancestor Tianlin had obtained a Dharma power soul in the Yingtian dojo, so it should not be a problem for him to pass through the thunder calamity. Moreover, even Feng Shutao, who had refined the Dharma power soul in one gulp, could advance to the mid-Dharma stage, let alone someone like Ancestor Jiang Tianlin who had refined it meticulously without any side effects. All right. Fornax Cauldron Ancestor took the jade essence bottle and was about to put it away when Lu Ping saw the spirit pellet he spent dozens of precious 3,000-year-old spirit herbs to concoct being taken away by Fornax Cauldron Ancestor. He panicked and said, Grand Marshal Uncle, can you return the spirit pellet to me? Tianlu Laozu glanced at the indifferent Tianling Laozu and said, Why? Do you have a use for it? You haven't even formed a Dharma power. What do you need it for? No. Lu Ping was so anxious that he did not choose his words carefully. This is a pill that I refined. 40 to 50 types of 3,000-year-old spirit herbs, and a total of nearly 200 of them. It must have cost a lot. Uncle Master, you can't just take it away without saying a word. How dare you? The heavenly spirit ancestor shouted. How can Uncle Master Tianlu take advantage of a junior like you? With Tianling Laozu's words, Lu Ping immediately gave up. The Sky Zither ancestor giggled heartlessly to the side. Tianlu Laozu pointed at Tianling Laozu, and then at Lu Ping. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. You two echo each other. Are you doing this on purpose for the old man to see? Although the purple sun thunder tempering pill is rare, it is at most an early Dharma pill. It can take 200 3,000-year-old spirit herbs, and at most 100. At this time, Celestial Phenomenon Laozu suddenly said, Tell me, what do you want? Tianling Laozu was the one to give up now. She closed her eyes and did not care. Lu Ping asked Tianlu Laozu, Uncle Master, why don't you return the crimson spiritual flame to me? Tianlu Laozu glanced at Celestial Phenomenon Laozu and said, Don't even think about it. The crimson spiritual flame has already appeared in front of everyone. It's impossible to take it back. Besides, you want to exchange 4 purple sun thunder tempering pills for 1 crimson spiritual flame? If it's a lower earth level spirit item, even a mid-level one is not out of consideration. Lu Ping realized that Celestial Phenomenon Laozu was involved in the matter of the crimson spiritual flame, and immediately extinguished the thought of taking it back. But when he heard that Tianlu Laozu was only going to give him a lower earth-level spirit item, he laughed and said, Uncle Master, based on the value of a furnace of purple sun thunder tempering pills, a lower earth-level spirit item is acceptable. But this purple sun pill can still withstand the lightning punishment. This is a huge gimmick. You also said that if the news of this pill is leaked, who knows how many Laozu will come looking for you. If that's the case, even a mid-earth level spirit item will seem a little shabby. Lu Ping paused for a moment. Seeing that the few Laozus had a wooden expression on their faces, he decided to add fuel to the fire and said, What's more, I already have more than 10 earth-level spirit items in my hands. Why would I want an extra one? This sentence was indeed effective. Not only Tianlu Laozu and the others, but even the calmest Celestial Phenomenon Laozu and Tianlin Laozu looked at Lu Ping with shining eyes. On the contrary, Tianling Laozu opened his eyes and looked even calmer. A dozen earth-level spirit items, this was not a small matter. At least in Jinling, it would be enough to create 8 or 9 late core forging disciples with hopes of breaking through to the 7th grade golden core. Even if 4 or 5 of them could break through to the Dharma plane, it would be an incredible event. Tianqin Laozi looked at Lu Ping in surprise and said, "You really have more than 10 Earth-level spirit items? How did you get them? Did you destroy a small sect?" Lu Ping laughed involuntarily and told the few Laozus about the underground trade fair in Tianxian ancient city. This matter was actually known to the Jinling's Laozus. At that time, the Yingshan Immortal School had already notified them. However, firstly, it was a long distance away, and secondly, it did not attract the attention of the Laozus of the sect. Therefore, although the Yingshan Immortal School had some gains from the trade fair, compared to the dozen Earth-level spirit items that Lu Ping had exchanged for, it was far from enough. Tianshan Laozu knew that his question was a little presumptuous, but he could not help but ask, "Where did you get so many treasures to be able to exchange for so many spirit items?" He naturally knew that Lu Ping would not answer this question, but he still asked it in the end. In fact, it was not only Tianshan Laozu who wanted to know the answer. Who here did not want to know the answer? At this time, without waiting for Lu Ping to ponder over how to answer, Tianshan Laozu suddenly opened his eyes and asked, "What do you plan to do with so many spirit items?" Lu Ping knew that this was his teacher helping him out of this predicament. As expected, the moment this question was asked, all the Laozu's attention was drawn to it. This was what they were most concerned about. Lu Ping smiled and said, "This disciple has not thought about it yet. In general, I plan to exchange for a few things. However, as for what exactly I want to exchange for, I will have to wait and see. When the time comes, I will have to ask the sect master to come out and gather the sect's disciples." After pausing for a moment, Lu Ping hurriedly said, "Ancestor Tianlu, this disciple only wants to exchange for the spirit herbs used to refine the purple yang pill, about 100 stalks." Tianlu Laozu impatiently waved his hand and said, "Scram! Go pick from the pill pavilion's treasury. Remember, 100 stalks, no more." Lu Ping hurriedly left Tianlu Laozu's cave as if he was escaping. Tianlin Laozu smiled and said, "The lightning tribulation is imminent, this disciple will take his leave first." After Tianlin Laozu left, Tianqin, Tianshan, Tianling and the others also left. Tianlu Laozu was a little worried and said, "Senior brother, is Tianling too indulgent with this kid?" Tianxiang Laozu looked at Tianlu Laozu strangely and said, "Indulgent? Back then, who could compare to you indulging Tianqin? Who wouldn't protect such a disciple? Today, even if you had designs on his earth-rank spirit item, Tianling couldn't say anything and Tianlin would still come out to stop you. Now that this kid is using a spirit item to open the eyes of Tianling, Tianling's authority will definitely rise to another level. Just this point alone is enough to make the old man happy." Tianlu Laozu chuckled and said no more. Tianxiang Laozu had already disappeared from the cave. Lu Ping picked 100 stalks of 3,000-year-old spirit herbs from the pill pavilion. He ignored Taoist Xian Yan, who was guarding the treasury, and hurriedly returned to the cave that he had opened up on Heaven's Spirit Mountain, but had only stayed in a few times. As soon as he settled down, Lu Ping was stunned and hurriedly stood up. He saw a spatial door open at the entrance of the cave and Tianlin Laozu was already walking in. "Senior uncle?" Lu Ping was about to bow with a puzzled expression when he saw Tianlin Laozu wave his hand and said, "No need for formalities. After the pill pavilion head's test, the old man will be going through his first lightning tribulation. You should make some preparations first." Lu Ping blinked and said, "So soon?" Tianlin Laozu smiled and said, "If it's possible, the old man can attract the lightning tribulation now. I'm just doing my best to be safe. Since you're planning to go into seclusion to train, the old man doesn't know when you'll come out, so you might as well go through the lightning tribulation first." Lu Ping smiled and said, "Looks like senior uncle has a card up his sleeve." Tianlin Laozu said, "Because of the Dharma power soul, I have more or less a chance of passing the first lightning tribulation. If I can add in your Thunder 7 Treasures calabash, then there's an 80 to 90% chance of success. I just didn't expect you to have a treasure like the Thunder 7 Treasures calabash. Lu Ping seemed to have remembered something at this moment. He took out a treasure that looked like a tree root from his magical storage device and said, Senior Uncle is about to advance to the mid-Dharma stage. This treasure can be considered a congratulatory gift from your disciple to Senior Uncle in advance. When Tianlin Laozu saw this item, his initially calm expression disappeared in an instant. He was moved and said, This is a companion spiritual treasure? You killed the blood Shura yourself? Lu Ping chuckled and said, I don't have that kind of ability. As he said this, he briefly told Tianlin Laozu about his situation in the Yingyu swamp. This tree-root-like companion spiritual treasure was left behind by a wood elemental blood Shura, and it was very suitable for Tianlin Laozu's level of practice. Once it became a suitable spiritual treasure, Tianlin Laozu would be like a tiger that had grown wings. After the incident at Yingyan Temple, Tianlin Laozu had the intention of giving the Linglong wine cauldron to Lu Ping, and Lu Ping was returning the favor. After hearing this, Tianlin Laozu sighed and said, The richness of treasures in the Central Plains is far beyond that of the North Sea. The old man had originally planned to bring one of our sect's powerful spirit-nurturing treasures to go through the lightning tribulation with him, to see if he could add another spiritual treasure to the sect. But with this blood Shura's companion spiritual treasure, as long as it is slightly improved, it will only be a formality for the old man to go through the lightning tribulation with him. There's basically no need to worry about it being destroyed. Chapter 874. Tianlin Laozu turned around and was about to leave when he thought of something. You seem to be looking for a spirit-nurturing artifact recently? Lu Ping was overjoyed. That's right. I have a few artifacts that I want to upgrade to spirit-nurturing artifact, but they are stuck on the artifact restrictions. Tianlin Laozu took out a few jade slips and said, Take a look. These are some of the special artifacts that the old man has accumulated over the years. They are all spirit-nurturing artifacts. See if there are any that you can use. Lu Ping took out the jade slips and looked through them one by one. He really did find a spirit-nurturing artifact that he could use now. After sending Tianlin Laozu off, Lu Ping began to carefully look through the dense runes recorded on the artifact restriction. This was a treasure restriction suitable for water attribute magic treasures. This type of treasure restriction was not very precious, but very few people would refine this type of magic treasure for water attribute magic treasures. Coincidentally, after Lu Ping's landslide condensed 6 spirit-nurturing artifacts, it was withdrawn from Lu Ping's list of artifacts because it didn't have a suitable spirit-nurturing artifact restriction. But this time, with this artifact restriction, it could be upgraded to a spirit-nurturing artifact. However, the artifact's quality was a little low. It had a water attribute and a metal attribute. But Qin Lian would have to worry about this himself. The refining hall should have quite a few rare spiritual materials. As long as he could upgrade landslide to a spirit-nurturing artifact, Zhenling would have another Grand Master refiner. The next day, the Pill Pavilion's examination continued. Hundreds of disciples started a fire in the Pill Pavilion's plaza. Hundreds of fire seeds were ignited at the same time. Although each flame couldn't compare to the heaven and earth spirit fire that the masters displayed yesterday, the combined power was enough to rival the examiners. At first, Lu Ping was curious. But as time passed, he began to feel annoyed. These were just mid-blood condensation medicinal pellets. In the eyes of an alchemist grandmaster like Lu Ping, even if the cultivators here had all kinds of tricks up their sleeves, could they really make a flower out of these medicinal pellets? Lu Ping looked at the grandmaster alchemists sitting upright on the platforms on his left and right. He stood up and, under the surprised gazes of the onlookers, slowly walked towards the alchemy plaza. This made Lu Ping feel like an invigilator again. He was just like those invigilators in his past life who had to walk back and forth in the examination hall in order not to fall asleep. Not only did he abide by his professional ethics, but he also intimidated the students. However, Lu Ping's unexpected action this time not only shocked the alchemist's professionalism, but it also shocked the alchemist in the midst of refining the pellets. Moreover, it was obvious that he had gone overboard. Even Lu Ping himself didn't know that his identity as a Grandmaster refiner would be so shocking. Just as Lu Ping casually walked past these alchemists, the flames in their hands began to flicker. The spectating cultivators felt their hearts rising and falling along with it. Just as Lu Ping walked up to two alchemists who had already started to control the flames in one of their hands flickered and extinguished. Perhaps it was because they were too excited, afraid, or for some other reason, the flames in one of their hands flickered and extinguished, while the flames in the other's hands surged and engulfed the entire pill furnace. Immediately after that, there were two pu-pu sounds. The smell of half-cooked medicinal dregs came from the first pill furnace, while the smell of burnt flesh came from the second. Of the two, one raised his head and looked at Lu Ping pitifully, while the other was curled up and trembling. It was as if she was a female alchemist who had suffered a great injustice. Lu Ping raised his head and looked at the few grandmasters, only to see that they were also shocked and at a loss. Obviously, no one had expected such a thing to happen. In the past Pill Pavilion examinations, there had never been an examiner patrolling the plaza. That was because the examiner's divine sense was enough to know the situation of every alchemist participating in the examination. There was no need for them to go down to the plaza to check. As the main examiner, Lu Ping was enjoying his role. He squinted at the two and said, "Although an alchemist cannot be disturbed during the process of concocting pellets, it doesn't mean that the process will fail. If an alchemist doesn't even have the slightest bit of resistance, then the alchemist is too weak." Lu Ping paused and looked at the two alchemists who seemed to have resigned themselves to their bad luck. He continued, "This time, it's my fault for suddenly patrolling the plaza. Since it's your first time, I'll give you one more chance. If these alchemists extinguish their flames because of my patrolling again, they will be kicked out of the venue." Lu Ping's voice wasn't loud, but it was clearly heard by every alchemist who was refining pills. The flames controlled by the alchemists flickered again. Outside the plaza, there were already cultivators from the Pill Pavilion who came up to the two alchemists and handed them 2 mid-blood condensation pills for them to refine. After the first day of the exam, basically every pill refiner who participated in the exam had successfully refined a pill. There was no failure of an empty furnace. This was extremely rare in the history of Jinling Sect's Pill Pavilion exams. However, because of Lu Ping's sudden patrolling in the plaza, the success rate of the alchemists who participated in the exam was much lower. Many alchemists complained that if Grandmaster Lu Xianping didn't suddenly go down to patrol the plaza, their success rate could have increased by 10 to 20%. However, no one dared to complain to the Pill Pavilion. It wasn't just because of enlightened Master Lu Xuanping's identity as a Grandmaster alchemist. It was also because of what Grandmaster Lu said at the exam. If the alchemists could really be affected just because someone was walking beside them, then it would be too shameful. Even though everyone had successfully refined the pill, according to the rules of the Pill Pavilion's examination, those who had a success rate of 30% or less would be eliminated. In just this one round, 2/5 of the 100 or so alchemists had been eliminated, leaving less than 70 people. Among them, about 40 were disciples of the Pill Pavilion. However, these eliminated cultivators could still redeem a late blood condensation realm pill and continue to participate in the exam the next day. The only difference was that they wouldn't be included in the exam. The exam continued on the second day. This time, they were going to refine late blood condensation realm pills. Lu Ping continued to patrol the plaza. Not only Lu Ping, but the other alchemy masters also went down to patrol the plaza. They discovered that they could observe the situation of the alchemists around them more directly. In fact, enlightened Master Xian Jing had tried to question Lu Ping about the drop in success rate because of Lu Ping's patrol the day before. However, Lu Ping refuted him with a few words. The other alchemy masters didn't have any objections either. However, Lu Ping knew that enlightened Master Xian Jing wasn't willing to let the matter rest. After that, he sneaked into Fornax Laozu's cave dwelling. However, he came out with his tail between his legs and didn't say anything after that. Lu Ping guessed that enlightened Master Xianjing must have been scolded badly by Fornax Laozu. This time, the alchemists were prepared. Even though there were still some alchemists who couldn't control their flames properly when the examiners patrolled the plaza, the situation was much better than the day before. However, this time, the scene of the examiners inspecting the scene was beyond the expectations of these alchemists. In the end, there was still one alchemist who lost control of his flames due to the pressure of having 3 examiners observing him. The elixir in the cauldron turned into a pile of useless dregs. Lu Ping disqualified this alchemist on the spot. The spectators from the Jinling Pill Pavilion and the foreign cultivators couldn't help but sigh. Today's results were out. In the end, there were less than 50 people who managed to form pills. Those who had a success rate of 20% or less were eliminated, leaving 33 people. Among them, there were 22 disciples from the Jinling Pill Pavilion. This time, the level of alchemy skills was gradually revealed. Most of the cultivators who passed could only maintain a success rate of 30% to 40%. Only 9 people could achieve a success rate of 50%. Among these 9 people, there were 3 who achieved a success rate of 60%, and none of the 3 who could maintain a success rate of 70%. That was because among the 3 people, 2 of them only had a success rate of 60%, and only one of them had a success rate of 80%. He outshone others and was far ahead. Just as everyone was talking about Tianyu, the few alchemy grandmasters on the plaza were also carefully selecting a few seedlings with good alchemy skills. Those who had not yet entered the sect would naturally be the first to be selected. Even if they were not disciples of the Pill Pavilion, they would still fight for them to see if they could be recruited into the Jinling Pill Pavilion and become an inner disciple. However, among the 9 people who had emerged so far, only 3 were from the Jinling Pill Pavilion's subsidiary forces. The other 6, with the exception of Tianyu, already had their own masters. As for Tianyu, none of the alchemy grandmasters present were talking about him. When Grandmaster Li Yenshan heard that Tianyu had not become an apprentice yet, he even asked Grandmaster Xian Fang curiously why such a talented alchemy genius had not been accepted as a disciple by any of the grandmasters in Jinling. Taoist Xian Fang pointed to Lu Ping, who was sitting at the head of the plaza. Grandmaster Li Yenshan suddenly understood. So Tianyu had already been reserved for him. No wonder no one dared to compete with him. On the 3rd day of the examination, there were only these 33 people on the plaza. This time, they were required to refine a half-step core forging pill. Although a half-step core forging pill could not be considered as a core forging pill, it was still an important threshold for alchemists. 70 to 80% of alchemists would be stopped by this threshold from becoming a Grandmaster alchemist. Although there was still one last chance to freely choose a pill, the 3rd round had already become the last day for the 33 alchemists to decide the outcome of the examination. When Lu Ping announced the start of the examination, all 33 cultivators took out their mid-grade pill furnaces. This caused Lu Ping to be somewhat surprised. Lu Ping clearly remembered that many of them had been holding low-grade pill furnaces. Could it be that they had been pretending to be pigs to eat tigers? After asking Taoist Xianyu beside him, he found out that these 33 cultivators could be said to be the people that the Pill Pavilion would focus on cultivating for the next few decades. In addition to the Pill Pavilion renting them mid-grade pill furnaces, their friends and cultivators who had previously been eliminated would also lend their mid-grade pill furnaces to them. Many of the Jinling Pill Pavilion's subsidiary forces would even specially rush over at this time to lend their mid-grade pill furnaces to the participating cultivators for free. This was for the sake of building a good relationship with the Jinling Pill Pavilion in the event that one of them had extraordinary achievements in the future. Chapter 875. Lu Ping even suspected that if it wasn't for the strict rule that high-grade pill furnaces weren't allowed in the Pill Pavilion's examination, it wouldn't be surprising if someone took out a high-grade pill furnace at the start of the 3rd examination. Naturally, these pill refiners wouldn't have high-grade pill furnaces. However, their teachers and the forces they represented might be able to take out a high-grade pill furnace. Although Junling only wanted to reward the top 10 pill refiners, the top 20 would be qualified to listen to the lectures of the various pill refinement masters in the pill pavilion. They might even have the opportunity to receive pointers from Grand Masters like Tianlu Laozu and Tianqin Laozu. This was specially prepared by Junling for the outstanding pill refinement masters who participated in the examination. The duration of the examination was about 1 year. Regardless of whether they were disciples of Junling or cultivators from the subordinate forces, the top 20 in the pill pavilion's examination would qualify. When these people raised the flames they controlled, the spectating cultivators in the plaza cried out in surprise again. Originally, most of these 32 people were only using some ordinary beast flames, spiritual energy flames, and fire seeds that were a level higher than ordinary flames. Now, when these 32 people lit up their flames, the weakest of the 32 flames was the beast fire of a mid or late blood condensation realm demonic beast. Some of the flames even came from core forging realm demonic beasts. These flames were of a higher grade than some of the special flames of heaven and earth. The few core forging realm pill refiners didn't have such a beast fire, but the blood condensation realm pill refiners also had this kind of beast fire. It was obvious that they didn't own it. Other than that, there were a few special flames of heaven and earth. Tianyu had been using a special flame in the previous examination. It was given to him by Hu Lili a long time ago. Hu Lili had told Lu Ping about this beforehand. It was something she obtained from a cultivator who had returned from an expedition in the outer endless sea. Although this special flame was good for concocting pills, Lu Ping naturally didn't need it. Hu Lili also knew that Lu Ping valued Tianyu, so she gave it to Tianyu. Lu Ping didn't mind seeing Tianyu continue to use this kind of flame, but perfected Master Xian Fang, who was talking to Master Li Yanshan, couldn't help but frown slightly. However, he didn't say anything. In addition, the appearance of 3 profound class heaven and earth spirit fires set off a climax in the pill pavilion's major exam. Although these flames were all at the low to mid grade of profound class, heaven and earth spirit fires were the most suitable flames for alchemy. Even if they were more suitable for refining tools, the effect of alchemy was still better than most heaven and earth spirit fires. Moreover, these 3 mystic grade spirit fires were in the hands of the 3 pill refinement masters who maintained a success rate of more than 50% in the late blood condensation realm. Many cultivators were filled with anticipation. Many of them believed that the outcome of the exam would be decided today. Tianyu looked at the 3 heaven and earth spiritual fires and was slightly surprised. Then, a trace of regret appeared on his face. The difficulty of the half-step core forging realm pills varied greatly due to the number of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs used and the higher requirements of the pill refinement masters. Even though there were slight differences between the late blood condensation realm pills, the difference was not big enough to affect the fairness of the competition. Even if some cultivators drew pills with different difficulties, they could only complain about their bad luck. The previous method of Junling was to choose as many half-step core forging realm pill recipes as possible. Then, the pill refinement masters would draw randomly. Finally, the pill refinement success rate would be used to determine the level of their pill refinement skills. However, Lu Ping was quite dissatisfied with this method. After that, he personally went to Tianlu Laozu and took out the 7-step marked pill recipe he obtained from the East Sea. Tianlu Laozu immediately approved of his suggestion. This time, all the pill refinement masters would refine the 7-step marked pill at the same time. After the examiners saw the 7-step marked pill recipe, they all agreed with Lu Ping's proposal. Because of this, Lu Ping extorted a batch of 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs from Tianlu Laozu. Daoist Xianyan, who was in charge of the pill pavilion's spiritual herb treasury, had a dark expression on his face. However, Lu Ping's 7-step marked pill was indeed unique. Taking out this pill recipe could be said to benefit many pill refinement masters. It was only natural for him to obtain a batch of spiritual herbs from the sect to make up for it. Strictly speaking, the 7-step marked pill also had the meaning of 7 lines. When the pill was formed, 7 lines would appear on the surface of the spirit pill. Unless one purposely chased after the perfect 7 vein patterns, it was extremely rare for one to fail. Even if one couldn't concoct a pill with 5 or 6 vein patterns, it wasn't difficult to concoct a pill with 3 or 4 vein patterns. However, a pill with 3 or 4 vein patterns was only comparable to a late blood condensation realm pill. This proved that this cultivator wasn't qualified to concoct a half-step core forging realm pill. In fact, a 7-step marked pill could only be considered a half-step core forging realm spirit pill if it had more than 4 lines. It would also play a role in helping cultivators advance to the core forging realm. Once a 7-step marked pill was refined, one would only be 1 step away from a true core forging realm spirit pill. In the past, when Lu Ping and Chu Xianting competed to refine a 7-step marked pill, Chu Xianting originally thought that if Lu Ping could refine a 5 or 6 line spirit pill, it would be good enough. However, she didn't expect Lu Ping to also refine a 7-step marked pill. This caused Chu Xianting to dispel her contempt. In fact, at that time, Lu Ping didn't even show his true alchemy skills. He didn't refine a 7-step marked pill at all. Lu Ping asked all 33 alchemists to refine a 7-step marked pill. Based on the lines on the pills, one could easily determine the level of the alchemist's alchemy skills. Even if the same lines appeared, the alchemist's success rate would determine the level of the alchemist's alchemy skills. At the same time, Lu Ping passed down the medicinal pellet recipe, which was extremely precious to blood condensation realm cultivators. It was also a reward for the 33 alchemists for passing the 3rd round of the exam. As one of the best medicinal pellets in the cultivation world that could help a cultivator advance to the core forging realm, the 33 alchemists were very grateful to Lu Ping's medicinal pellet recipe. The only unfortunate thing was that the appearance of the 7-step marked pill seemed to make the 4th day's alchemist self-selection spirit pill irrelevant. However, in this exam, there were a few alchemists who announced that they wanted to break through to the alchemy grandmaster level. Because of this, there were a lot of variables. The difficulty of refining the 7-step marked pill increased the time it took for the pills to come out of the furnace. By the time the pills reached the core condensation stage, the alchemy grandmasters could basically distinguish the alchemist's alchemy skills. The first to open the furnace were 17 alchemists. Although these 17 alchemists had different success rates, they only managed to refine 2 or 3 lines. Obviously, they didn't have the qualifications to refine a half-step core forging realm pill. It was a great pity. Next were the 8 alchemists who refined the 7-step marked pill with 4 lines. Although the quality of their pills was the same, according to the different success rates, these 7 alchemists could still be ranked. In fact, it was just to separate the 9th and 10th alchemists. As for the others, there was no need to separate them. In any case, the top 20 alchemists had the qualifications to enter the pill pavilion and learn from the alchemy grandmasters. The remaining 8 alchemists were the 9 alchemists who had the highest success rate yesterday. 4 of them refined the 7-step marked pill with 5 lines. Among the remaining 4, 3 were alchemists who used heaven and earth spirit fires. The only one who didn't use a spirit fire was Tianyu. After a while, an alchemist who used a middle-grade and low-grade mystic-ranked spirit fire also opened his furnace. One of them refined 4 7-step marked pills with 6 lines, while the other refined 3. This kind of alchemy skill and success rate were already considered very good among the quasi-grandmasters. Although Lu Ping didn't know these 2 alchemists, he saw that they had asked Taoist Xian Yu and Taoist Xian Dian for guidance after the exam 2 days ago. He guessed that they should be their disciples. They were also one of the few early 3rd-generation core forging disciples in this exam. At this time, one of the 2 alchemists was Tianyu, and the other surprised Lu Ping. It was actually the little female cultivator who had almost burned her furnace in fright when he left the field to patrol on the first day of the exam. After a while, the 2 opened their furnaces one after another. 7-step marked pills with 7 lines flew out of the furnace. Tianyu only refined 2 pills, but the little female cultivator refined 3 pills. At this moment, all the cultivators watching the exam were in an uproar. Because Lu Ping suggested using the 7-step marked pill for the third exam, the entire refining process and the result could be seen at a glance. Even a layman who didn't understand alchemy could see that Pill Pavilion's Tianyu, who everyone had placed their hopes on, had actually lost to an unknown little female cultivator. For a moment, all the cultivators present, including Lu Ping, became interested in this little female cultivator. Unfortunately, they discovered that they knew nothing about her identity. Only then did they realize that she wasn't an alchemist from Pill Pavilion, but someone from Jinling's subsidiary faction. Brother Yan Shan, it's true that a famous master produces a brilliant disciple. Your disciple really shocked the world with a single brilliant feat. Even our Pill Pavilion's alchemists are inferior to your disciple. Taoist Xian Fang chuckled as he congratulated Grandmaster Li Yanshan. Taoist Xian Fang and Grandmaster Li Yanshan were similar in age, cultivation, and alchemy. Moreover, they sat together on the stage and interacted frequently. Taoist Xian Fang already knew that this little female cultivator was Grandmaster Li Yanshan's brilliant disciple. Only now did people realize that this shy little girl was actually the disciple of the North Sea's famous alchemy grandmaster. What was rare was that she also had such outstanding talent in alchemy. You're too kind. My disciple only relied on the profound grade spirit fire in her hand. If not for that, how could she have defeated Martial Nephew Tianyu? On the third day of the exam, there seemed to be some unexpected developments, and the cultivators who were watching the exam had a lot to talk about. This female cultivator named Pei Yenner also made the eyes of the entire Pill Pavilion's exam light up. However, because a few alchemists were determined to break through to the core forging stage on the last day of the exam, there was a trace of suspense in this exam. Chapter 876. On the fourth day, Grandmaster Lu Xianping waved his brush and all the alchemists with less than 4 lines were disqualified. Even the 2 alchemists ranked 9th and 10th were disqualified. In Grandmaster Lu Xuanping's words, cultivators who had just reached the level of half-step core forging shouldn't waste any more spiritual herbs. Only the last 8 cultivators participated in the final assessment. The competition was mainly focused on the top 4 alchemists. This was because the last 4 alchemists still chose half-step core forging pills. 2 of them even planned to refine 7-step mark pills. The top 4 alchemists decided to break through to the core forging stage on the last day to fight for the qualification to become an alchemy grandmaster. Taoist Xian Dian's disciple planned to refine the azure wood pill. It was the simplest type of core forging pill. Similar to it were the blue water pill, white gold pill, scarlet fire pill, yellow earth pill, cold ice pill, and clear wind pill. These 7 types of pills were the first choice for alchemists to advance to the Grandmaster rank. Taoist Xian Yu's disciple chose the scarlet fire pill. Lu Ping could see clearly from the side. The former chose the azure wood pill because he cultivated a wood attribute cultivation method. The latter chose the scarlet fire pill because he had a fire attribute cultivation method. The little female cultivator, Pei Yenner, chose the cold ice pellet. Although it was a surprise to Lu Ping, when he saw a small porcelain bottle of cold ice water among the spirit herbs she chose, he immediately understood the reason. This spirit ice water had the effect of increasing the success rate of refining ice attribute spirit pills for core forging realm cultivators. Although it couldn't compare to the amethyst honey, it was still rare. With this item in hand, this little female cultivator naturally chose to refine the cold ice pill. At this moment, the surrounding cultivators let out a low cry. Lu Ping frowned and turned to look at Tianyu. He saw that this kid actually took out a new flame. Geocentric molten flame, mid-grade profound level. Lu Ping looked at enlightened Master Xian Fang. Naturally, Lu Ping was very familiar with this geocentric molten flame. It was a treasure that he had obtained from Flying Spirit Island's crafting hall. After that, this spiritual fire somehow ended up in Taoist Master Xian Fang's hands. Back in the True Spirit Side Courtyard's grand competition, Taoist Master Xian Fang had used this spiritual fire to challenge Lu Ping's alchemy skills. Now that it was in Tianyu's hands, it was obvious that Taoist Master Xian Fang was secretly supporting him. No wonder this brat had such an ugly expression when he saw his opponents take out their spiritual fire yesterday. It turned out that he was regretting his carelessness. The geocentric molten flame was a type of flame with a violent nature. Compared to alchemy, it was actually more suitable for refining tools. However, a spirit flame that was not suitable for alchemy would still be more effective than other flames in alchemy. There was no doubt that Tian Yu's alchemy skills had improved because of this spirit flame. While the surrounding cultivators exclaimed in low voices, they were naturally secretly happy. Yesterday, Pei Yan'er, a little female cultivator, had taken first place. This made the disciples of Jinling feel very regretful. Now that they saw the Pill Pavilion's most outstanding participant in the exam, Tian Yu also took out a spiritual fire of heaven and earth. This made the disciples of Jinling, who hoped that the Pill Pavilion could take first place again, very excited. This time, Tian Yu was concocting a blue water pellet, not the azure wood pellet that Lu Ping had expected. Tian Yu cultivated a wood elemental cultivation technique, so he was quite experienced in cultivating spirit herbs. He was also very sensitive to the transformation of medicinal properties of spirit herbs. This was also one of the main reasons why he was able to rise in the pellet pavilion. After the alchemy started, there was not much difference between the four of them. Although Tian Yu and Pei Yan'er's talent in alchemy was higher than the other two, their experience in alchemy was obviously lower. Looking at the other two's proficiency in alchemy, it was obvious that they had made a lot of preparations for core forging stage pills in private. In contrast, Tian Yu and Pei Yan'er seemed to be a little shaky. However, Tian Yu and Pei Yan'er's perception of the transformation of the medicinal properties of the spiritual herbs in the furnace was far better than the other two. Their control of the fire and the use of fire-controlling hand seals were not as good as the other two, but they grasped the timing of the changes in the fire very accurately. As the alchemy process continued, Tian Yu and Pei Yan'er, who were originally a little less experienced, gradually caught up and even surpassed the other two. At this time, Lu Ping could basically see that the other two had no chance of forming the pills. Although they were very proficient in the hand seals, they were too lacking in the timing of the transformation of the medicinal properties of the spiritual herbs in the furnace, and the timing of the changes in the fire. The medicinal properties of the spiritual herbs were not stimulated enough. After entering the core condensation stage, the pills would gradually collapse. On the contrary, if Tian Yu and Pei Yan'er did the right thing at the last moment, they still had a chance of forming one or two pills. Seeing that Lu Ping was in low spirits, Perfected Xian Yu, who was next to him, asked, "What's wrong? You don't have much hope?" Although he knew that one of the two cultivators was Perfected Xian Yu's disciple, Lu Ping still nodded and said, "The two at the front still have a glimmer of hope, but the two at the back probably won't have much of a chance." Perfected Xian Yan, who was next to him, was a little skeptical when he heard this, but he didn't say anything. Although Perfected Xian Yu couldn't tell, he believed most of Lu Ping's words, and a trace of disappointment inevitably appeared on his face. When Lu Ping saw Perfected Xian Yu's expression, he comforted him. Actually, these two junior brothers are only one step away from becoming Grandmaster Alchemists. It's just that their talent is slightly inferior to Tian Yu and Pei Yan'er. After the big exam, give them more pointers and give them a few furnaces of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs for practice. I think within 3 to 5 years, our sect will have 2 more Grandmasters Alchemists. Perfected Xian Yu nodded and didn't say anything more. At this time, there were already people opening their furnaces on the square. Whether it was the quality or the success rate of the pills, there wasn't much difference compared to yesterday's. It could be seen that the 7-step marked pill was indeed a kind of pill that was extremely suitable for the Pill Pavilion's big exam. Several Grandmasters were considering whether they should cancel the 4th free alchemy event in the future, and only leave it for those disciples who wanted to become Grandmaster Alchemists. They could even set the threshold higher. At the very least, they had to refine a 6-step marked pill before they were qualified to break through to the core forging stage, so as to avoid wasting the sex's spiritual herbs. Just as the few cultivators who were refining half-step core forging stage pills finished their furnaces, the 4 grandmasters also entered the stage of pill condensation. As Lu Ping expected, perfected Xian Dian's disciple and perfected Xian Yu's disciple had their pills collapse one after the other, causing the surrounding Jinling disciples to be greatly disappointed. The 2 alchemists also looked at their furnaces in dismay. Everyone's eyes were focused on the last 2 people. Lu Ping's expression was calm, as if he had already expected the result of the competition between the 2. The other grandmasters, on the other hand, seemed somewhat nervous. At this time, Pei Yener suddenly opened a small gap in her furnace. The cultivators outside the square were in an uproar. This was the critical moment of pill condensation. Pill qi was being condensed, so if she opened the furnace, wouldn't all her previous efforts be in vain? The grandmasters knew that Pei Yener had a spirit treasure that could increase the success rate of pill condensation and wanted to put it into the furnace. This was the perfect time. Sure enough, Pei Yener pushed her hands forward, and in an extremely ingenious manner, she used a spirit sealing technique to force the overflowing pill qi back into the furnace. Then, she poured a large amount of spirit ice water into the furnace. This beautiful pill control technique won the cheers of all the cultivators present. Even the few alchemy grandmasters were quite impressed. At the same time, Tian Yu also opened his furnace. He picked out a few drops of viscous liquid from a jade bottle and flew into the furnace. This was the purple crystal honey that the grandmasters of the Pill Pavilion were very familiar with. At this time, the grandmasters already knew that these 2 people would most likely be able to refine pills for the core forging stage. 2 grandmasters were about to be born in front of everyone. The last time Jinling directly became an alchemist in the major examination was hundreds of years ago, when Lyra Laozu was born. Taking advantage of this last moment, perfected Xian Yu asked Lu Ping, "Martial nephew Lu, this time, what reward did you prepare for the first place?" As soon as perfected Xian Yu asked this question, the alchemists present all pricked up their ears. Although Lu Ping was the chief examiner, the reward he gave was naturally the highest. It also depended on the grade of the reward. If the first place's reward was not high, then the examiners would naturally be happy to follow behind. If the first place's reward was high, then the examiners behind would naturally be willing to bleed. Lu Ping smiled and said, "Didn't there already be news a few days ago? This time, I will definitely reward the first place heavily. As for the rest of the martial uncles, you can decide according to your discretion." The grandmasters were startled. They didn't expect Lu Ping to be so straightforward. Could it be that the rumors a few days ago had really forced this martial nephew to the cliff? The grandmasters of the Pill Pavilion glanced at perfected Xian Jing without anyone noticing. At this time, at the corner of perfected Xian Jing's mouth, of course, at this time, the sneer on perfected Xian Jing's face could not be hidden from Lu Ping. In all likelihood, the rumors from that day were related to this old fellow. Perfected Xian Yu seemed to feel that this was not simple, so he continued to ask, "Then what treasure does martial nephew intend to reward the first place with?" Lu Ping said without hesitation, "If Tian Yu is first, then it will be a mystic-level high-grade spiritual fire. If Pei Yener is first, then it will be a high-grade alchemy furnace." The grandmasters were instantly shocked. Spiritual fire of heaven and earth? High-grade alchemy furnace? Did they hear wrongly? How could the reward be so ridiculous? Then what kind of reward should we offer? Mystic-level mid-grade spiritual fire? Mystic-level alchemy furnace? It wasn't that they couldn't afford these things, but to them, it was really cutting off their own flesh. Don't be fooled by the fact that these grandmasters had earth-grade spiritual fires and high-grade alchemy furnaces at the pill exhibition. However, those things either belonged to their sex, or they had cultivated for hundreds of years to accumulate. If they were to take out other spiritual fires and alchemy furnaces, it would really not be an easy task. The gazes that swept towards perfected Xian Jing began to become less friendly. Perfected Xian Jing's face also turned from green to white, and then from white to black. He had miscalculated. He had forgotten that this guy was the famous Many Treasures boy. But even a Many Treasures boy wouldn't be so wasteful. It was just a Pill Pavilion's examination, so why did he have to take out such a high reward? Perfected Xian Jing cursed in his heart. His eyes flickered as he wondered if he could lower the standard of the reward. He was currently in a tight spot. In order to break through to the late stage of the core forging realm, not only had his wealth shrunk, but he also owed a lot of people. If it wasn't for his identity as an alchemy grandmaster, he was afraid that people would not lend him these things. At this time, Perfected Xianyu once again said to Lu Ping, "Martial nephew Lu, isn't this reward a bit too high? How can it be divided into men and women?" Chapter 877. Is it high? With a strange expression on his face, Lu Ping asked. These two are about to finish their golden core and will soon become Grandmaster Alchemists. They are both rare geniuses in the cultivation world, so it's only right to reward them with these things. As for male and female, it's not that I'm biased. Originally, I wanted to reward them with a high-grade alchemy furnace, but I didn't expect them to refine pills of the core forging stage, so I changed the reward method at the last minute. Reverend Li Yanshan listened curiously. He really wanted his disciple to win first place, not for anything else, but just the high-grade alchemy furnace promised by Grandmaster Lu Xianping made his heart beat faster. No matter what, it would be better than his old alchemy furnace. Reverend Li Yanshan quickly followed Reverend Xianyu's words and asked, Reverend Lu, may I ask, why did you change the reward method? Although Reverend Li Yanshan could not wait for the high-grade alchemy furnace to fall into his disciple's hands, he still asked Lu Ping respectfully. Except for Reverend Xian Fang and Li Yanshan, the examiners present were all elders of Lu Ping. However, when Lu Ping talked and laughed in front of these people, none of the alchemy masters dared to put on airs in front of him. Naturally, Reverend Li Yanshan could see it clearly. Moreover, few people in the North Sea had not heard of Reverend Lu Xuanping's illustrious name, so Reverend Li Yanshan was extremely respectful to this cultivator of the same generation. Lu Ping laughed and said, It's fine if they haven't obtained the title of alchemy master, but if they do, at least Tian Yu will be qualified to control a high-grade alchemy furnace because he is a disciple of the Elixir Pavilion. In this case, I might as well reward him with a spiritual fire, so that he won't have to worry about holding 2 high-grade alchemy furnaces. 2 high-grade alchemy furnaces. Reverend Li Yanshan was conflicted. He had long heard that Junling had the potential to conquer the North Sea. It seemed that the other sects in the North Sea really could not compare with Reverend Xian Fang. Previously, Reverend Li Yanshan had invited him several times to become an outer sect elder of Junling. Should he become an outer sect elder? At least he could get Yen'er the identity of an inner sect disciple of Junling, and maybe he could get Junling's strong support in the future. But Li Yanshan sighed softly. At this moment, the scene suddenly fell silent. Pei Yen'er and Tian Yu had already opened their furnaces and taken out their pills. Grandmaster Li Yanshan's attention was also drawn to them. A frigid ice pill flew out of Pei Yen'er's cauldron and was put into a jade bottle by the excited little female cultivator. On the other side, 2 blue water pills flew out of Tian Yu's cauldron. The Pill Pavilion's plaza was filled with thunderous cheers. Not only was it for the 2 new alchemy grandmasters, but it was also because Tian Yu had finally obtained the first place in the exam. In the end, this position was not occupied by an external alchemist. Tian Yu smiled apologetically at Pei Yen'er. If he hadn't used the purple crystal honey at the last moment, it would have been hard to determine the outcome of this alchemy. Although Pei Yen'er seemed to have used a spiritual treasure that could increase the success rate, it couldn't be compared to the purple crystal honey. On the other hand, Pei Yen'er was not disappointed because she had lost the first place. She was still immersed in her excitement to be able to become an alchemy grandmaster like her teacher, Perfected Li Yanshan. Reverend Li Yanshan, on the other hand, looked regretful. He had missed the high-grade furnace. The results of the Pellet Pavilion's examination were clear at a glance, so Lu Ping didn't delay any longer. Without hesitation, he immediately entered the reward distribution stage. The top 10 alchemy masters were rewarded. Although it was just a sum of spirit stones and spirit herbs, it was a considerable amount. Of course, what was even more exciting was the reward given by the 9 examiners. Unfortunately, there was no reward for the 10th place, because there were only 9 examiners. Although Lu Ping had informed the other alchemy masters, no one knew what treasures the examiners were going to give. Even the 9 alchemy masters were looking forward to it. Tian Yu! Tian Yu was startled. He realized it was Reverend Lu Xianping. Reverend Lu Xianping was going to reward him. Tian Yu hurried forward and bowed. Greetings, Uncle Master Lu! Lu Ping nodded. I've seen your hard work. To be able to become the first alchemy master among the 4th-generation disciples, you've far exceeded my expectations. Lu Ping flipped his palm. A sky-blue flame burned quietly in Lu Ping's palm. Gasps could be heard all around. A heaven and earth spiritual fire. It was a heaven and earth spiritual fire. Reverend Lu Xuanping's reward for the first place was a heaven and earth spiritual fire. And from the looks of it, it should be a mystic high-grade heaven and earth spiritual fire. Although the alchemy masters knew that Lu Ping was going to reward Tian Xian with a mystic high-grade heaven and earth spiritual fire, they were still surprised when they saw the indigo spirit fire. Especially Reverend Li Yanshan. The heaven and earth spiritual fire he controlled was only a mystic high-grade heaven and earth spiritual fire. Moreover, the thunderbolt flame was more violent. How could it compare to the indigo spirit fire, which was the most suitable for alchemy? The other alchemy masters were not surprised by the quality of the indigo spirit fire, but by the indigo spirit fire itself. Most of them knew that Lu Ping's rise in alchemy was due to the inheritance of a rogue alchemy master. This indigo spirit fire was the most important inheritance of that rogue alchemy master. This indigo spirit fire was of great significance to Lu Ping. There was a tradition in the alchemy world, which was to value an alchemy master's first inheritance. This was because the existence of this inheritance usually meant the continuation of the alchemy master's inheritance. The indigo spirit fire was undoubtedly the best inheritance for Lu Ping. Lu Ping's alchemy skills had improved by leaps and bounds. From the indigo spirit fire to the mysterious heaven-burning spirit fire, to the eastern purple-chi flame, the crimson spirit fire, and the silver spirit fire, there were many alchemy masters that were of a higher grade than the indigo spirit fire. However, Lu Ping had never abandoned the lowest grade indigo spirit fire. But now, Lu Ping was going to reward the indigo spirit fire to Tian Yu. The alchemy masters looked at each other, and then looked at Tian Yu with an expression that said, "This kid is so lucky." Tian Yu had no idea what the indigo spirit fire meant to Lu Ping. He was so excited that he carefully received the heaven and earth spirit fire that now belonged to him. He did not notice the strange looks that the other alchemy masters were giving him. This was the first heaven and earth spirit fire that he had obtained. Previously, the earth core flame was only lent to him by Sage Xianfang for the Elixir Pavilion's assessment. It was not his. But now, this indigo spirit fire truly belonged to him. Moreover, the earth core flame could not be compared to the indigo spirit fire in terms of fire seed quality or alchemy. Lu Ping looked at Tian Yu, who was playing with the indigo spirit fire in his hand. He suddenly asked, "Tian Yu, have you refined the pill formula that I gave you?" "Pill formula?" Tian Yu's body trembled. In the forbidden area of Yingshan Immortal Academy's back mountain, Sage Lu Xuanping's mount, Sage Dague, Sage Lu Qiner, and an unfamiliar little girl appeared in front of Tian Yu. Could this be real? Lu Ping saw that Tian Yu seemed to have turned into stone after he asked the question. Tian Yu's mind actually started to wander. This fellow was really a weirdo. Why? Did you forget? Or did you not refine it? Tian Yu quivered. Only then did he remember who was standing in front of him. Cold sweat instantly soaked his back. This was real, this was real. Tian Yu could no longer contain the excitement in his heart. His hands trembled as he took out the 3 jade bottles from his storage bag. He knelt in front of Lu Ping and said, Disciple does not dare to forget. Disciple has already refined the essence expanding pill, meridian toughening pill, and pure blood pill. Disciple hopes that martial uncle can inspect them. At this moment, everyone felt that something was wrong with the situation. When they saw Tian Yu suddenly kneeling in front of Lu Ping as a disciple, the entire Pill Pavilion Plaza instantly burst into an uproar. Sage Lu Xianping, who had not had a disciple to inherit his legacy, was going to accept a disciple for the first time? Or did this fellow want to become Sage Lu Xuanping's disciple by getting first place in the Pill Pavilion examination? The uproar of hundreds of people instantly died down. The entire plaza was completely silent. Hundreds of pairs of eyes looked at Tian Yu and Sage Lu Xianping, who were kneeling on the ground. Beads of sweat flowed down Tian Yu's hair to the ground. Tian Yu's eyes did not dare to wander. He stared at the ground in front of Lu Ping. Lu Ping laughed. He took the 3 jade bottles from Tian Yu's hands and poured out an elixir from each of them. Then, he returned the jade bottles to Tian Yu and said, "Get up. It is rare for disciples of the Zhonghua lineage to perform such a grand ceremony. You have refined these 3 elixirs. In the future you will be my disciple. You only need to be respectful in your heart." This was it? He became Sage Lu Xuanping's disciple so easily? The surrounding cultivators originally wanted to watch an exciting show, but they did not expect perfected Lu Xianping to finish the act so easily. However, Tian Yu was immersed in great joy at this moment. To be able to become Sage Lu Xuanping's disciple, the so-called first place in the Pill Pavilion and the other rewards were no longer important. No, this azure spiritual fire, I can't lose this azure spiritual fire. I would rather die than lose it. This was a legacy. That's right, back then, Reverend Lu Xianping, no, it was teacher. Back then, when teacher became an alchemist, it was said that it was because of this blue spirit fire. This was a legacy item. Teacher had passed on his alchemy inheritance to Lin Fan. At this moment, Tian Yu finally understood the true meaning of Lu Ping rewarding him with the azure spiritual fire. Seeing that Tian Yu understood his meaning, Lu Ping couldn't help but laugh. Since you have refined these 3 elixirs and have a 7-step marked pill, your cultivation has also reached the peak of the blood condensation realm. It is only a matter of time before you advance to the core forging realm. Tian Yu finally calmed down. He kept the azure spiritual fire and listened attentively to Lu Ping's words. Lu Ping saw that Tian Yu was still able to maintain his composure after experiencing such great joy. He nodded in his heart and said, "Although you are already a disciple of the Hearing Wave Manor, you can only formally acknowledge me as your master after you advance to the core forging realm. During this period of time, you should focus on tempering your cultivation. After that, go into closed-door cultivation on Huangli Island. Disciple will remember." Lu Ping nodded his head in satisfaction. He smiled and said, "Since you have refined the azure spiritual fire, you are already the 10th Grand Master Alchemist. You have the right to control a high-grade pill furnace in the Pill Pavilion. This is also the reason why I gave you the azure spiritual fire but didn't prepare a pill furnace for you. Remember to collect it yourself. Don't be like me, who only found out about this privilege after becoming an alchemist for many years." Chapter 878. Although Lu Ping was joking, the dissatisfaction in his words was heard clearly by Perfected Xian Yan and the other 2. Perfected Xian Yu also knew about this matter. Although he blamed the 3 of them for getting caught in their own trap, he did not want them to lose face, so he smiled and said, "Martial nephew Lu, you must be joking. Nowadays, who would dare to slight your disciple? However, martial nephew, you've just become a teacher, so as your martial uncle, I have to show my sincerity." Lu Ping stopped Perfected Xian Yu, who was about to take out a gift for Tian Yu, and said with a smile, "Right now, it's just a confirmation of his status. In the future, when he officially becomes my disciple, it won't be too late for martial uncle to give him a gift. Right now, it's more important to reward the alchemists." Perfected Xian Yu knew that Lu Ping was just taking the opportunity to grumble, so he hurriedly patted his head and pretended to have forgotten. He said, "Isn't this all because of you, martial nephew? You suddenly came up with this. I almost forgot the most important thing today." Having said that, he waved at the little female cultivator, Pei Yener, and said, "Little friend Pei Yener, come over here." Her master, Master Li Yanshan, and perfected Xian Fang were friends of the same generation. Pei Yener stepped forward and said, "Disciple Pei Yener greets martial uncle." Perfected Xian Yu laughed and took out a wooden box from his storage Dharma artifact. He said, "Your martial uncle Lu Xianping is rich and imposing. I can't compare to him. Your alchemy skills are not inferior to Tian Yu's, and you're also a grandmaster alchemist. Moreover, you call me martial uncle, so no matter what, the old man must give you something decent." Taoist Xianwei opened the wooden box, and inside was an exquisite jade hairpin. Taoist Xianyu reluctantly looked away from the jade hairpin and placed the wooden box in Pei Yener's hands. He said, "Although this jade hairpin is not a good magic treasure, the 2 enchantments it has condensed can not only be used as a defensive magic treasure in times of crisis, but this jade hairpin can also be used to store vital energy for a short period of time. In the future, when you need to refine a pill that consumes a lot of vital energy, you can store a part of it first. When your vital energy is exhausted during the process of refining the pill, you can take that part of vital energy back into your body and continue to use it. However, this jade hairpin can only store vital energy for a short period of time." For Pei Yener, who was a rogue cultivator and had yet to advance to the core forging stage, a defensive magic treasure with 2 restrictions was already rare and valuable. However, this jade hairpin had the ability to store true essence, so it could truly be regarded as a rare treasure. Most alchemists, when compared to cultivators of the same level, often had weak strength and insufficient true essence. After all, there were very few people like Lu Ping and Tianqin Laozu, who had both alchemy and strength. And because of this jade hairpin that could store true essence was even more precious. Pei Yener was obviously very fond of this jade hairpin. She thanked Taoist Xian Yu and happily returned to Grandmaster Li Yanshan's side. When Taoist Xian Yan arrived, he took out the jade slips that he had accumulated over hundreds of years of cultivation and gave them to the third-placed disciple of Taoist Xian Yu to copy. This spirit grass book could be said to be Taoist Xian Yan's growth manual. There might not be any pill recipes inside, but there were all kinds of Taoist Xian Yan's experiences in alchemy, as well as all kinds of spirit grasses that he had seen over the past hundreds of years. It could be said to be half of an alchemy grandmaster's inheritance. This was not a small reward. Usually, alchemists would only pass on these things to their disciples, and some would even choose only one disciple to pass on. Taoist Xian Yu naturally knew the importance of this spirit grass book. In surprise and joy, he quickly ordered his disciple to bow and thank Taoist Xian Yan. When it came to Taoist Xian Jing, Lu Ping's mocking gaze never left him. Taoist Xian Jing and Chonghua and Xiao Yao were not on good terms. When Lu Ping entered Chonghua Palace, Taoist Xian Jing had made things difficult for him. Because of this, Tianlin Laozu's disciple had even offended his superior and caused a scene with Taoist Xian Jing. Now that Lu Tianling Laozu was in charge of the sect, it was not good for Lu Ping to directly cause trouble with Taoist Xian Jing, but it was inevitable that he would secretly ridicule Taoist Xian Jing. Just as Taoist Xian Jing stood up, he heard a he sneer in his ear. He turned around and glared at Lu Ping, but saw that Lu Ping had already turned his head and seemed to be pointing at Tian Yu, who was standing behind him. The disciple who won 4th place was Taoist Xian Dian's disciple. This disciple naturally knew that the martial uncle in front of him was famous for being stingy, so he didn't expect him to give him anything good. Although he felt a little regretful, he could only do so. Taoist Xian Jing was really in a difficult position at this time. First, he was punished by Fornex Laozu to refine pills for the sect for free because of the soul-stealing secret technique. As a result, he didn't have any income for decades. Then, he borrowed money to advance to the late stage of core forging. Now, he really didn't have any good things on him. The small items that he had prepared were enough for the previous Pill Pavilion examinations, but today's situation had obviously put Lu Ping in a difficult position. Senior brother Xian Yan had even taken out his own spirit grass catalog and made a copy of it for the disciple who had won the prize. Who knew how much hatred the senior brother would have for this disciple? Taoist Xian Jing clenched his teeth and took out a mid-grade pill furnace from his storage magic tool and handed it to Taoist Xian Dian's disciple. When Taoist Xian Fang saw Taoist Xian Jing take out this mid-grade pill furnace, he couldn't help but stare blankly. This pill furnace was something that Taoist Xian Jing had asked for from his disciple, Taoist Xian Fang. Originally, he wanted to give it to a new disciple who had just entered Taoist Xian Jing's tutelage. He didn't think that Taoist Xian Jing would take it out here. Taoist Xian Fang looked at his teacher helplessly. His teacher was extremely narrow-minded and often held grudges against those who had offended him. This kind of grudge was extremely difficult to erase, but it was undeniable that Taoist Xian Fang treated his own people extremely well. Even if that person later developed a great dislike for him, Taoist Xian Fang still treated them extremely well, just like Uncle Master Tianqin. After that, the rewards were uneventful. The Pill Pavilion examinations ended in several unexpected situations. However, 2 Pill Masters had suddenly appeared in Jinling's examinations. Furthermore, one of them had actually been accepted as a disciple by the Water Sword Immortal, who had never accepted a disciple before. When the news spread, the unknown Pill Master Tian Yu had already become a hot rising star in Jinling, and even the entire North Sea's cultivation world. The generous rewards given by the Pill Pavilion examiners in Jinling also caused everyone in Jinling to talk about it enthusiastically. Only the Pill Pavilion examiners had a lot of complaints about this. With this precedent set, the Pill Pavilion examinations in the future would be a journey of financial loss for every Pill Pavilion examiner. However, this would probably motivate even more Pill Masters to work hard and improve themselves. The Pill Pavilion examiners could only use this as an excuse to lose money. In reality, the Pill Pavilion was more lively than ever before. Every Pill Master had thrown themselves into the training of pill refinement with an unprecedented passion. Of course, the price for this was that the Pill Pavilion's reserves of spirit herbs were decreasing at a far faster rate than before. Tian Yu's high-rank pill furnace was already in his hands. Although Jinling's high-rank pill furnaces were rare, with the expansion of Jinling's influence, the development of the spirit mines on Frost Island, and the relocation of the Mirror Spirit Mine to the Yingsu Ancient Mirror Spirit Mine, the excavation of the Ying Tian Dao Plaza and other ruins, and the gains from exploring the outer seas with Huangli Island as the center, Jinling's accumulation continued to increase. There were already a few more high-rank pill furnaces than before, and even the top-rank pill furnaces that were so damaged that they no longer dared to use them for pill refinement were almost completely repaired by the artifact forging hall. At this time, Lu Ping had already arrived on Frost Island through the teleportation array. This island, which had caused countless disturbances in the North Sea in the past, was no longer as desolate as it used to be with a layer of ice covering it. At this time, the island had already been divided into several distinct groups of buildings according to the arrangements of each faction. As for the buildings on Jinling, because Tian Shui Laozu had been stationed here for the past few years, it had become a unique ice garden. Because of the existence of a large spirit stone mine on Frost Island, it occupied a special position in the entire North Sea cultivation world. 70% of the entire mine was divided among the 9 major sects of the North Sea, and the remaining 30% belonged to the other 12 factions that had Dharma adepts. The current situation in the North Sea was basically divided into 3 camps: the 4 major sects led by the Jinling sect, the Loose Alliance formed by the Mysterious Spirit sect, the Vast Ocean sect, the Sea Flame sect, the Flying Feather sect, and the Lingu sect, and the 12 neutral forces. These 3 major factions each took turns sending Dharma adepts to guard Frost Island, so that the entire Frost Island always maintained a scale of at least 6 Dharma adepts. Among them, Junling, Xianling, and the vast ocean sect all had Laozu guarding them all year round, because these three sects had the largest share of the mine on Frost Island. Furthermore, because Junling had monopolized a mid-sized spirit stone mine, after Tianling Laozu returned to Junling to assume the position of sect leader, the ones who came to guard Frost Island had always been mid-Dharma adepts. Just as Lu Ping came out of the teleportation formation, he felt that the spirit chi on the entire Frost Island seemed to fluctuate strangely. Before Lu Ping could use his divine will, a series of roars came from the southeast direction of Frost Island. The southeast direction was the place where Lu Ping had discovered the mid-sized spirit stone mine. After that, Tianling Laozu had built Junling's palace on that mid-sized spirit stone mine to guarantee ownership of the entire mine. After that, the few Laozu who guarded Frost Island also used the palace that Tianling Laozu had built. Lu Ping's divine will instantly extended towards the southeast direction. Immediately, a majestic divine will returned. However, because Lu Ping's divine will came from the direction of Junling's teleportation formation, this majestic divine will was cautious, but not hostile. Marshal Grand Tian Shui, disciple Lu Xianping. Lu Ping hurriedly stated his identity. That majestic divine will showed an extremely shocked expression, and instantly retracted. Lu Ping scratched his head. He didn't go to the palace to greet Tian Shui Laozu first. Instead, there was a flash of light under his feet, and he headed towards the center of the spirit chi fluctuation. Chapter 879. After the spirit stone vein was discovered on Frost Island, this medium-sized island was protected by a great island protection formation. Due to the crisscrossing of the various great forces, the island protection formation was divided into several areas of different sizes. Because Lu Ping and the others had struck first, Junling had not only obtained the only medium-sized spirit stone vein, but also occupied the largest area of the entire frost zone. When Lu Ping arrived at the coast of the East Sea, he saw a group of Mara attacking the great island protection formation from the sea. This was the area that Junling was defending. Dozens of Junling cultivators used spirit guiding talismans and the mother-child traction formation that spiritual master Xianqin had set up to protect themselves. Then, they charged out of the Great Island Protection Formation and fought against Mara, who was attacking the Great Island Protection Formation. Once the barrier was about to collapse, they would retreat back into the Great Formation. After recovering their true energy, they would use new spirit talismans to guide the Great Formation's barrier out to fight. Originally, as the barrier continued to break, the Great Island Protection Formation would also be weakened. However, the one thing that Frost Island did not lack was spirit stones. Over the years, the Guardian Laozu had continuously operated and formed a few small spirit veins near the palace. It was enough to support the continuous operation of the mother-child traction formation. It was precisely because of the mother-child traction array's protection that the Jinling sect's cultivators dared to take turns to fight the enemies. Many blood condensation cultivators even joined the battle near the island, greatly reducing the number of cultivators' casualties. Moreover, as the battles continued, these cultivators gained more combat experience and grew stronger at a much faster rate. The northern area of Jinling was under the control of Flying Feather Sect. At this time, the cultivators of Flying Feather Sect, Blue Sea Sect, Xianling Sect, and other sects were gathered in the Great Island Protection Formation several kilometers away. They laughed and laughed as they watched the battle between Jinling and Mara, their faces full of schadenfreude. The southern region was under the control of the 12 forces. A group of cultivators had gathered there as well. However, unlike the cultivators from Xianling Sect, Azure Sea Sect and Ocean Flames Sect, these cultivators were not there to watch the show. Instead, they were standing guard in their own regions, in case the demonic sieves suddenly changed their target of attack. Jinling disciples were not the only ones fighting against Mara. There were also disciples from Yijian Sect, Shuiyan Pavilion, and Chongming Sect mixed in with the Jinling disciples. They worked together with the Jinling disciples to defend against Mara's attacks on the Great Island Protection Formation. There were about 150 cultivators from the 4 sections. Among them, there were about 70 core forging cultivators and the rest were late blood condensation cultivators. Most of these blood condensation cultivators were Jinling's disciples. Lu Ping even saw Wang Qi, who had also reached the peak of blood condensation realm. Taoist Master Xianxin commanded the cultivators in the middle and divided them into 3 groups. One group activated the mother and child traction array and fought against the barrier that was separated from the island's great array. The other group was on standby on the island and could attack at any time. The third group was to seize the time to recover their consumed Jinyuan. Mara could see that there were about 1,000 of them attacking the Great Island Protection Formation. Among them, there were about 100 to 200 core forging Great Azuras and Great Devil cultivators. The rest were equivalent to blood condensation Great Azuras and Great Devil cultivators. Although Jinling's cultivators had the support of the mother-child traction formation, they were able to fight against Mara repeatedly. However, Mara had the advantage in numbers. Furthermore, they would not stop until one of them was dead. Even though Jinling's cultivators tried their best to block the attacks, there were still quite a number of attacks that landed on the Great Island Protection Formation, causing ripples to form. Tian Shui Laozu did not reveal herself. Lu Ping extended his divine sense to the outside of the island. Immediately, he discovered 2 faintly discernible auras moving around the island. These 2 auras belonged to 2 Transcendence Realm Blood Mara. It was because of these 2 faintly discernible auras that were restraining Tian Shui Laozu, causing Tian Shui Laozu to be unable to deal with the Mara that was attacking the Great Island Protection Formation. Although Enlightened Master Xianxin was giving out orders, the natal artifact in his hand danced around his body. Wherever there was danger, he would help. As time passed, he had long become Mara's target. These Mara mainly consisted of water Azuras, ice Azuras, and wind Azuras. Due to the protection of the Great Island Protection Formation and the Meridian Suppression Spirit-Locking Formation, these Azuras were unable to infiltrate the Frost Island despite their strange escape techniques. Thus, they could only fight head-on. Enlightened Master Xianxin had just blocked the assassination of a Wind Azura. Suddenly, he noticed that someone had charged out of the Great Island Protection Formation without his permission. Furthermore, they did not even activate the Spirit Guiding Talisman. His heart was instantly filled with rage. Did they not want their lives anymore? Enlightened Master Xianxin relied on his spirit guiding barrier to block the attack of a water Azura. Then, he took the opportunity to disperse the black fog that was wrapped around a devil Azura. He shouted, "Which reckless fellow is it? Scram back to the island for the old man!" He only heard a chuckle beside his ear. A faint light flashed by his side. The devil Azura that was heavily injured by him did not even have the chance to retreat before it was beheaded by the faint light. At this moment, Taoist Master Xianxin could clearly see that the glimmering light was actually a flying sword. However, when he heard the laughter, he already knew who it was. However, this casual sword strike was able to easily kill a devil cultivator equivalent to a late core forging cultivator. Even though he had the advantage of a sneak attack, it still caused Taoist Master Xianxin to sigh inwardly. This brat's strength is becoming more and more unfathomable. With a flick of the autumn water sword, a soul-devouring crystal flew out of the devil Azura's head. It was caught by Lu Ping, who had just appeared. "Junior Master, do you want to rest for a while?" Under the sweep of Lu Ping's powerful consciousness, the amazing escape technique that the Azuras were so proud of was immediately revealed to Lu Ping. While he was speaking, a water Azura that had just emerged from the seawater beneath his feet had its shoulder sliced in half. The water Azura's howls abruptly stopped as the seawater submerged it once more. The blue shadow of the sword flashed and disappeared. Enlightened Master Xianxin laughed and said, "All right, I'll leave this place to you." After saying that, he turned around and dived into the island's protective formation without looking back. An ice Azura leaped over the surface of the water. With every step it took, the seawater would turn into ice for it to step on. However, just as it was about to pounce on Lu Ping, it saw Lu Ping casually pointing at it. Just as it was about to leap, it suddenly felt its feet stop moving. When it looked down, it did not know when the seawater that had turned into ice had turned back into water. 2 waves of seawater spiraled up from under its feet and tightly wrapped around its legs. The ice azure roared, as if it was laughing at Lu Ping's insignificant skill. The water that spiraled upwards immediately turned into ice again, then shattered and fell into the water. However, it had forgotten that the seawater was endless. It could not possibly freeze the entire sea into ice. A steady stream of water flowed backward toward its legs. No matter how it performed its innate magic power, it was unable to freeze all the water. Its entire body was still tightly bound above the sea, unable to move. At that moment, the Great Shura, which was equivalent to a late-stage core forging realm Great Shura, finally realized that something was wrong. It reached out and waved its hand, causing the water vapor within a radius of dozens of feet from the sea to gather around its body. In an instant, it was covered in a layer of ice armor. When it looked up, a sword light was already in front of it. The ice azura straightened its palm, and 9 ice walls were erected in front of it in a row. The sword light pierced through 8 ice walls in a row. Just as the ice azura thought it could take a breather, it saw that there was another sword light hidden behind the first one. The second sword light arrived first, piercing through the last ice wall and heading straight for the ice azura's neck. The ice azura obviously did not expect such a strange thing to happen. It tried its best to dodge, but its feet were firmly bound above the sea, so it could only try its best to avoid the attack on its throat. A scream was heard, and the ice azura's shoulder was pierced. The ice azura took the opportunity to perform its innate magic power. Its body shone with a cold luster, freezing and breaking the water column that was entangled around its feet. It formed a huge ice cover under its feet, blocking all the seawater that was flowing upward. The ice azura turned to escape, but it did not see Lu Ping pointing his finger. The autumn water sword, which had been exhausted from piercing through the ice wall, suddenly shook. A rich bluish-purple light flashed on the sword, and then the flying sword shot toward the ice azura's back like a long arrow released from a bow. The ice azura, who had just broken free from its shackles, had yet to escape far when a huge force suddenly hit its back. The ice azura staggered a few steps forward, and when it finally stopped and looked down, it saw a fist-sized hole in its chest. The ice azura screamed in panic, and before it could stop, its entire body began to melt. By the time the screams stopped, its body had completely melted into the seawater. Lu Ping had only come out of the Frost Island's protective formation for a moment, and out of the 3 Mara that were equivalent to late-stage core forging Mara, 2 were dead, and 1 was seriously injured. This kind of power caused the morale of the entire Mara tribe to plummet, and the rhythm of their attack abruptly came to a halt. "It's the Water Sword Immortal, Spiritual Master Lu Xianping!" Immediately, another cultivator recognized Lu Ping and shouted, "It's Senior Brother Lu! Senior Brother Lu's strength is truly outstanding! It's Senior Uncle Lu!" The morale of Jinling's side was greatly boosted. The cultivators of Xianling sect, Sanghai sect, and the others who were watching the battle between Jinling's sect and Mo Luo from afar were dumbfounded at first. Then, they started cursing and swearing. After that, they all quieted down, no longer gloating like before. On the other side, the cultivators of the 12 forces were also slightly restless. They were clearly shocked by Lu Ping's methods that far surpassed cultivators of the same level. At this time, Lu Ping's divine sense had already sensed that 2 auras that were equivalent to blood Mara were swimming on the surface of the sea, and they were paying attention to him. However, Lu Ping didn't care at all. Seeing that the Mara that had retreated slightly earlier had once again gathered and surged towards the island, Lu Ping's faded autumn water sword stabbed into the seawater one after the other. At the same time, he shouted, "Disciples of Jinling, retreat to Frost Island!" Retreat to Frost Island? Was Spiritual Master Lu Xianping going to fight against almost 1,000 Mara alone? While everyone was still hesitating, the sea within a radius of 300 meters suddenly trembled. Countless ripples suddenly appeared on the originally calm surface of the sea. When the ripples spread, they collided with each other, and clusters of water began to splash on the surface of the sea. It was as if the water within a radius of 300 meters was going to be lifted up by Lu Ping. At this time, Spiritual Master Xian Sen's voice came from the island. "All disciples, retreat to Frost Island!" Chapter 880. Hundreds and thousands of boiling areas appeared in the ocean within a radius of 1,000 feet. Gurgling seawater rose, and countless bubbles emerged from the seawater. The Moro Luo clansmen that had regrouped quickly retreated into the sea 1,000 feet in front of Lu Ping. Suddenly, Lu Ping shouted, "Rise!" The tumbling seawater rose from the bottom of the sea, and more than 10 broken limbs of water shuras floated up from the bottom of the sea, and then gradually melted in the seawater. Small water columns rose vertically from the sea, and then turned into water swords that were exactly the same as the autumn water sword. Each of the 1,296 water swords pointed upwards, and the sword hilt pointed downwards, forming a magnificent sword forest in front of Lu Ping. Just as the sword forest rose from the sea, a small portion of Mara had already rushed into the sword forest. Seeing the water swords rising from beside them, some of the Shuras immediately destroyed the water swords with their companion magic treasures and instruments in their hands. In an instant, the forest of swords was destroyed into countless splashing water droplets. However, none of the water droplets fell back into the sea. Instead, they regrouped and turned into water swords. The tips of the swords were pointed up, and the hilts were pointed down. However, this time, the 1,296 water swords did not appear in the sea region with a radius of 1,000 zhang. Instead, they appeared at the edge of the sea region, surrounding the several hundred demon luos that had entered the sea region. Lu Ping took a deep breath, and his hands formed a spell like a butterfly flying through flowers. Then 2 huge flying swords rushed out of the sea one after the other, and several weaker Mara that were close to them were cut into pieces on the spot by the dissipating sword aura. Spin! The 2 huge flying swords hovered above the sea, chasing each other, and the 1,296 water swords also began to spin according to the trajectory of the autumn water sword. Dense sword aura gushed out from the water swords, and at the same time, the surrounding seawater also surged up. Outside the sea within a radius of 1,000 feet, a water wall that was more than 10 feet high gradually rose, forming a huge water ring that completely surrounded hundreds of Mara. Then, as more than 1,000 water swords spun, each brought up a wave, and each wave began to play out the various experiences of a river from the source to the sea in midair. There were a total of 1,296 rivers, performing 1,296 ways to enter the sea, like 1,296 water ribbons, and finally gathered together to weave a huge cage. Every river was controlled by the great river flowing east sword technique, and every surging wave was like a sword wave formed by the 1,000 snow pile sword art. Every tributary of the river was a complete azure dragon disturbing the sea sword art. Every time the waves rose and fell, a loud sound would be like rocks piercing through the sky, and waves crashing against the shore. Sword array, this is a real sword array! Could it be that martial nephew Lu has already mastered a supreme divine ability? How is this possible? He hasn't even condensed his Dharma idol, so how could he have mastered a supreme divine ability? But if this is a great divine ability, when did the cultivation world have such a powerful great divine ability sword technique? Taoist Master Xianxin looked at the magnificent scene in the sky, and he really couldn't imagine that this was the result of a great divine ability sword technique. Not only Taoist Master Xianxin, but also the disciples of the Jinling sect and the other sects were all stunned by this huge cage that was decorated with countless sword lights, and it was like 100 rivers flowing into the sea. A huge cage with a circumference of 300 meters was enveloped by countless sword energies that soared into the sky. A huge sword formation with a circumference of 300 meters contained almost all of the sword arts and divine abilities that Lu Ping had mastered. At this time, Lu Ping's expression was solemn. Endless pure and thick true essence surged into the huge sword formation, supporting the countless sword lights to rampage and kill inside the cage. Inside the core space, 9 strange dragons swam back and forth on the surface of the huge golden core, almost stirring up a mess inside the golden core. The purple mist that spread around the golden core continuously expanded and contracted, then expanded and contracted again. The few divine ability talismans that had already formed in the red mist began to disintegrate and reform. At the same time, a few new divine ability talismans gradually formed in the red mist, and then quickly joined the reform. The sword art, raging waves hitting the shore, stone-piercing sky, thousand snow pile, green dragon ocean disturbance, and great river flowing east. The divine ability talismans formed by the 5 great sword arts combined together, and formed a brand new talisman that looked like the huge sword formation cage outside Frost Island. The great divine ability talisman of the 100 rivers into the sea. Although this brand new talisman was formed by combining 5 great talismans, and it was still a great talisman, each of the 5 great talismans contained in it could be used individually, or in combination at will. Each of the 5 great talismans could unleash power far beyond what it had been in the past. A strange howl suddenly resounded in the sky. Lu Ping, who had just formed the great divine ability talisman, paled in shock. With a thought, the water-controlling flag rose above his head, and a black curtain of light fell down. However, it was immediately pressed, dented, and shattered by an invisible blade. A white jade lotus bloomed under his feet, and 9 layers of energy burst out of Lu Ping's body, forming 9 lotus petals. However, they shattered in front of Lu Ping one by one. "How dare you!" A folding fan suddenly appeared in front of Lu Ping. The folding fan immediately opened, and countless wind and snow surged out from the surface of the fan. 3 feet away from the folding fan, an indistinct object was wrapped in layers of snow, forming a flat snow blade. Then, the wind and snow condensed again, forming a crystal-clear ice blade. The ice blade trembled, and countless ice shards fell. The thing that attacked Lu Ping disappeared again. This time, Lu Ping's divine sense finally captured the object hidden in the ice blade. It seemed to be a wind blade that could change its shape at will. A woman's hand stretched out from beside Lu Ping, holding the folding fan in her hand. It was unknown when Tian Shui Laozu had already appeared beside Lu Ping, helping Lu Ping to block this strange attack. At this moment, a copious amount of unparalleled energy surged, and the entire sea suddenly flowed backwards. Lu Ping's great divine ability sword cage, which was formed using 1296 water swords to form the 100 rivers into the sea sword formation, collapsed with a loud bang. Cries of alarm could be heard from the surroundings. These cries of alarm weren't because Lu Ping's great divine ability sword formation had been broken. Instead, it was because of the remaining hundreds of Mara, as well as the hundreds of Mara's dismembered limbs that were floating on the surface of the sea. At that time, close to 1,000 Mara had rushed over. However, half of them had been trapped by Lu Ping's 100 rivers into the sea sword technique. In just a short moment, over 300 Mara had been killed. The 100 Mara that had managed to escape were all badly mutilated. If it wasn't for the Mara's extraordinary vitality, it was likely that more than 300 Mara would have perished. Even Tian Shui Laozu didn't expect Lu Ping's divine ability to be so powerful. Among the 300 Azuras that had perished, there were at least 50 to 60 core forging stage Big Mara. There were also at least 5 to 6 core forging stage Azuras that were equivalent to late stage core forging stage Azuras. However, they were all killed so easily. Exactly what kind of great divine ability was this? How could it have such might? At this moment, even Tian Shui Laozu's gaze towards Lu Ping started to waver. No wonder you were targeted by 2 blood Azuras. If it was me, I, your martial granduncle, would also go crazy. If I don't kill you, who else would I kill? Tian Shui Laozu, who was originally enraged by the 2 blood Azuras' sudden attack on Lu Ping, threw out such a sentence. This caused Lu Ping, who was standing behind him, to not know whether to laugh or cry. The seawater swirled up, gradually forming a 7 feet tall water azure. After that, a cool breeze swirled around the water azure, and a green wind azure appeared on the surface of the sea. Tian Shui Laozu looked at the 2 blood azures in front of her with a solemn expression. However, she said to Lu Ping, "You should return to the island. This isn't something you can interfere with." Hearing this, Lu Ping nodded his head. After that, he turned into a ball of flowing water and floated on the surface of the sea. When he reappeared, he had already entered the island's protective formation, standing on the Frost Island. "Martial Nephew Lu! Junior Brother Lu! Senior Brother Lu! Senior Uncle Lu!" The Jinling cultivators and cultivators from other sects who had already gathered in front of the Frost Island's protective formation immediately greeted Lu Ping. Lu Ping had no time to answer them one by one. He turned around and nodded at Spiritual Master Xian Senator. After that, with a flash of light, he had already disappeared from the shore. He didn't even care about Tian Shui Laozu, who was facing off against the 2 blood azures. Everyone looked at each other. They didn't know why Lu Ping left. It should be known that at this moment, the battle between Tian Shui Laozu and the 2 blood azures was about to start. Although Tian Shui Laozu was a middle Dharma Laozu, the 2 blood azures also had spiritual treasures with them. Although the folding fan in Tian Shui Laozu's hand was extraordinary, it was still not an easy task to defend against the 2 blood azures. Spiritual Master Xiansen looked in the direction where Lu Ping had left. He had a thoughtful expression on his face. Lu Ping hurried to the Ice Palace. It wasn't that he didn't care about the battle, but he knew that both sides wouldn't be able to fight. Putting aside the fact that the folding fan in Tian Shui Laozu's hand was one of Jinling's famous spiritual treasures, the snow fan, just how many Dharma adepts did Laozu have on Frost Island? Although these Laozu would usually sweep the snow in front of their door due to the restrictions of their own sects, that was only for the ordinary azures. Laozu knew that these azures would not be able to affect Frost Island at all. However, once the Blood Mara appeared, the nature of the battle would be different. Putting aside the fact that the Blood Mara was the source of the calamity and the natural enemy of all cultivators, if someone were to stand by and watch, the 2 blood azures would break through Jinling's island protecting formation. Then, the ones who would suffer would not only be the Jinling clan. Hence, Lu Ping predicted that this battle would ultimately end without any results. The 2 blood azures would definitely be able to sense the divine wills of the other human Dharma adepts who were hiding in the surroundings. Naturally, they would be cautious and not start the battle. Furthermore, even if the 2 blood azures joined hands, they might not be able to suppress Tian Shui Laozu. Furthermore, the true yuan in Lu Ping's body was a mess. Although he had performed the Sea of All Rivers sword technique and finally mastered the other great sacred art sword techniques, condensing a complete sacred art talisman within the Dan Xia purple mist, at this moment, Lu Ping urgently needed to find a place to tidy up and recover the true yuan in his body. The amount of true yuan required to perform this great sacred art was too great. Chapter 881. The palace on Frost Island was built by Tianling Laozu in the past. Naturally, Lu Ping knew this place like the back of his hand. It only took him a moment to find a secret room. He walked inside and shut the secret room tightly. Then, he knocked on Linglong's wine cauldron. A small spirit vein was drawn out from the spirit vein beneath the palace. Linglong's wine cauldron was almost exposed. That wind azure's fatal blow was even able to cut through the defensive divine ability of the 9th grade white jade lotus and his protective aura. If Tian Shui Laozu had not suddenly saved him, Lu Ping could only rely on Linglong's wine cauldron to take the blow. Although the Linglong wine cauldron wasn't a defensive spirit treasure, it was still a spirit treasure. It should be more than enough to block the invisible companion's spirit treasure that Lu Ping had weakened to 80% of its power. Lu Ping could not remember when was the last time he had exhausted his Jinyuan to such an extent. However, completely integrating the entire Sea of 100 Rivers sword art, and condensing a brand new divine ability talisman within the red glow was still beyond Lu Ping's expectations. Moreover, this was the first time Lu Ping had used the combined Sea of 100 Rivers great divine ability. Most of the Jinyuan he used was used by Lu Ping to recondense the divine ability talisman in his heart space. It was only natural that his Jinyuan would be exhausted so quickly. As expected, the confrontation outside the island did not last long. When the two blood azuras merged back into the wind and water, Tian Shui Laozu also returned to Huangli Island. The excited Junling cultivators also began to disperse. Wang Qi stared blankly at the empty sea outside the island. Are you very disappointed? Do you feel that you will never be able to reach his level? Wang Qi raised his head and saw Reverend Du Feng standing beside him. All these years, all of us have been trying to catch up to him. Du Feng's words seemed to be directed at Wang Qi, but they also seemed to be whispering to each other. Xi Xian Xian, Yin Xian Chu, Xian Yong Mi, Xian Ling, Xian Shang, Xian Lei, and even the other third-generation disciples who have been disciples for hundreds of years, such as Senior Brother Xian Tian, Senior Brother Xian Yu, and so on, are all chasing after him, hoping to catch up to his footsteps. At this point, Perfected Du Feng smiled bitterly and helplessly. However, every time we make some progress, we suddenly realize that we are actually left further behind when he appears. At this point, Perfected Du Feng turned to look at Wang Qi and patted his shoulder. You've just started. You still have a lot of opportunities to catch up. Although we're still catching up, we know that our chances are decreasing bit by bit. Our hopes are getting slimmer and slimmer. Wang Qi said. I heard that Perfected Lu has already announced that he has accepted Junior Brother Tian Yu as his disciple during the Sexth Pill Pavilion examination. Du Feng could hear the envy in Wang Qi's words. He smiled and said, Not really. That Tian Yu's alchemy skills are indeed not bad. He was able to refine core forging pills at the blood condensation realm. His talent is not far from Junior Brother Lu's back then. However, he has to at least step into the core forging realm before he can become Junior Brother Lu's disciple. You might have a chance to become Junior Brother Lu's disciple before he does. Wang Qi smiled bitterly. How can it be so easy? If I could become Perfected Lu's disciple, I wouldn't have waited until now. Back then, 6 or 7 of us saw Perfected Lu practicing swordsmanship at Visible Sun Peak. After that, we were sent to Huangli Island by Perfected Xian Yuan in hopes of becoming Perfected Lu's disciple. However, after a few decades, the rest of us have already become Perfected Lu's disciples. 2 or 3 of us have already entered the core forging realm. Only Tian Yu and I are still persevering. Now Tian Yu, who is the weakest among us, has caught Perfected Lu's eye. And it's because of his alchemy skills. Du Feng knew that Wang Qi was unable to see the situation clearly and had misinterpreted the meaning of his words. However, he didn't plan to explain. He said, Prepare to break through to the core forging realm in seclusion. I'll ask Senior Uncle Xiansen to transfer a small spirit vein to your secret room on Frost Island. Wang Qi said in surprise. Didn't you say that you wanted me to suppress myself and build a stronger foundation? How come you're allowing me to break through to the core forging realm after just a year on Frost Island? There are many cultivators of our sect on this island, and there are only a few small spirit veins. Senior Uncle, can you ask for a spirit vein from Senior Uncle Xiansen? Du Feng smiled. You don't have to worry about the spirit vein. With your strength, you could have formed your golden core a long time ago. You were just preparing yourself earlier. Wang Qi nodded thoughtfully and said, All right then, I'll go into seclusion. Even if I can't become Perfected Lu's disciple, as long as I can enter the core forging realm, I'll have the capital to start my own sect. Du Feng looked meaningfully at Wang Qi, who was walking away, and said, The core forging realm is just the beginning. Lu Ping stayed in the secret room for a month. It wasn't because he was recovering his true essence or sorting out his bloodline, but because he was studying the two great talismans in his dance xia that were fused with the talismans and fluctuated around his golden core. There were two of them. In reality, when Lu Ping executed the art of Sea of Mulberry Fields on Huangli Island, the dance xia had already changed. The water control art, wave treading art, sea deceiving art, and blue tide art had merged together in the dance xia when Lu Ping executed the art of Sea of Mulberry Fields and formed a brand new art of Sea of Mulberry Fields talisman. Therefore, when Lu Ping executed the Sea of 100 Rivers sword art outside Frost Island this time, he didn't think that it would form a combined talisman on the spot. However, when the talisman started to form, it didn't surprise Lu Ping too much. Other than these two great talismans, there were also a few other talismans at the edge of the dance xia. However, these talismans didn't originate from the North Sea wave listening art that Lu Ping cultivated. Instead, they were formed from the other divine abilities and secret arts that he practiced. Therefore, he was forced to stay far away from the dance xia by the two great talismans and didn't dare to overstep his boundaries. After Lu Ping came out of seclusion, he went straight to visit Tian Shui Laozu. From afar, he saw spiritual master Xianxin walking out of the palace, and stopped when he saw Lu Ping. "How did you do it?" "What?" Spiritual master Xianxin's clueless question caused Lu Ping to be a little confused. "A spirit vein! How did you manage to guide a spirit vein into your seclusion secret chamber without the control of an array disc?" So it was this matter. Lu Ping looked at spiritual master Xianxin's serious face and knew that although he didn't take this matter to heart, spiritual master Xianxin, who was currently in charge of the affairs of Frost Island, wouldn't let it go. If Lu Ping was able to strip the spirit vein from the formation so easily, wouldn't that mean that Lu Ping could collapse the entire island's protective formation at any time? He didn't think of this at that time. He was too careless. "Senior uncle, you forgot that the formation of Frost Island was created by Xianqin. Spiritual master Xianqin is also his direct disciple, so this disciple has some understanding of this formation. At that time, the matter was urgent, this disciple used it first." Spiritual master Xianxin also knew about the matter of the Linglong wine cauldron. However, only those who could truly subdue her would know what the use of this spirit treasure was. Naturally, Lu Ping wouldn't reveal the use of the Linglong wine cauldron. Therefore, he could only use this far-fetched reason. "So that's how it is." Spiritual master Xianxin looked at Lu Ping skeptically. However, in these past few years, this little fiancé of Lu Ping had gradually gained a certain status in the sect. Other than Lu Ping, when Tian Shui Laozu tried to take over Huangli Island, it was because spiritual master Xianqin firmly controlled the island's protective formation that he was able to preserve 20% of the spirit vein in Lu Ping's cave dwelling. Although Tian Shui Laozu wasn't a formation master, it wasn't that he didn't have any cultivators who were proficient in formations. However, in the fight for the control of Huangli Island's protective formation, Laozu still couldn't win. This even caused Tian Shui Laozu to think that spiritual master Xianqin was the one who was controlling the island from behind. After this incident, everyone in Jinling started to pay attention to this disciple who already had the strength of a formation master. They realized that she wasn't just a vase hiding behind Lu Ping's back. It was no wonder that every time Lu Ping went out, he would entrust all the matters of Huangli Island to her without worry. "Looks like I have to invite senior sister Xianqin over to repair the island's protective formation. Now that I think about it, this mother-child traction formation was set up by senior sister Xianqin when she just became a formation master. No wonder there were some flaws. Now that she has received the formation inheritance from Yingtian sect, senior sister Xianqin has been studying formations for many years. Her progress in the path of formations can be said to be tremendous. I believe that she will be able to set up this mother-child traction formation even more perfectly." After bidding farewell to spiritual master Xianxin, Lu Ping arrived at the temporary imperial residence. However, he saw that Tian Shui Laozu seemed to be waiting for him. "Brat, why did you come to Frost Island this time?" Don't tell Laozu that I came here to show off your sword divine ability. Lu Ping hurriedly smiled and said, Of course not. With you, Laozu, there's no need for this disciple to show off. It's just that my hands were itching for a moment. This time, this disciple came here with a request. Oh, so it's just that your hands were itching for a moment. Tian Shui Laozu purposely missed the last part of Lu Ping's sentence and said, You went into seclusion in a secret room for more than a month right after you came to Frost Island. Just because your hands were itching for a moment? Lu Ping knew that he couldn't hide it from Tian Shui Laozu. He smiled and said, Senior Granduncle's eyes are as sharp as a torch. However, this disciple really didn't think that I would be able to condense a divine ability talisman. It's not like I had no other choice. Tian Shui Laozu finally nodded in satisfaction. However, she still asked doubtfully, Tian Ling doesn't have such a powerful divine ability. From the looks of it, it's similar to when you fused all kinds of great divine ability talismans to form a supreme divine ability. However, you're only at the 9th level of the core forging realm right now. You haven't even condensed your Dharma idol yet, but you've already reached such a level. It's really surprising. Lu Ping didn't know how much Tian Shui Laozu knew. However, she had already understood most of what had happened in Lu Ping's heart space. Lu Ping hesitated for a moment before probing. Senior Granduncle, you. Tian Shui Laozu waved her hand and said, You don't have to say any more. Laozu, I don't have any intention of probing your background. I'm just feeling a little emotional. How many Dharma adepts tried to cultivate a supreme divine ability but failed? You, on the other hand, managed to fuse a great divine ability talisman before you even entered the Dharma realm. If that's the case, after you condense your Dharma idol, won't you directly form a supreme divine ability? Chapter 882. Tell me, why did you come to Frost Island this time? Tian Shui Laozu quickly changed the topic and asked Lu Ping. Lu Ping smiled embarrassedly and said, Actually, I came to Frost Island for 2 things. The first is to exchange some top-grade spirit stones from Senior Granduncle. The second is to ask for 2 restriction-breaking talismans from Senior Granduncle. Oh, are you preparing to advance to the Dharma manifestation realm? But what are you going to use the restriction-breaking talismans for? Could it be that you've discovered some kind of relic or treasure? The expected rejection didn't happen. Instead, Lu Ping was surprised for a moment. However, he quickly hid his surprise and said, The cultivation method disciple is cultivating is a little special. If I want to advance, I need a large amount of spiritual energy. This situation will probably worsen when I break through to the Dharma manifestation realm. So, disciple is just preparing for a rainy day. As for the items I want to exchange, disciple has a batch of world spirit items with me. I wonder if Senior Granduncle is satisfied. Lu Ping didn't say what the restriction-breaking talismans were for. However, the news of world spirit items still attracted Tian Shui Laozu's attention. World spirit items? How many do you have? Tian Shui Laozu didn't know that Lu Ping had returned from the mysterious Sky Ancient City's underground trade fair with great rewards. She obviously thought that the batch Lu Ping mentioned was at most a few items. Looking at the quality, it would only be a matter of 3 to 5 top-grade spirit stones. Lu Ping didn't say how many world spirit items he had. Instead, he asked, Senior Granduncle, how do you want to exchange world spirit items for top-grade spirit stones? Tian Shui Laozu looked at Lu Ping suspiciously and said, How many world spirit items do you have? From your tone, it seems like it's not a small number. Are you trying to dig a pit for me, Laozu? Lu Ping really wanted to slap himself. Playing tricks in front of this person who had lived for almost 1,000 years, wasn't he just looking for trouble? Lu Ping hurriedly said, I only gained something from the underground trade fair in the Tianxian ancient city. Naturally, it is not worthy of your discerning eyes. Although Tian Shui Laozu did not pursue the matter, she was still on guard. She said, Although the spirit stone mine on Frost Island is considered a rich mine, the production of spirit stones is also limited. Moreover, the number of Dharma adepts in our sect has increased rapidly. Naturally, the amount of spirit stones needed has increased as well. Therefore, the amount that can be allocated to you is not much. This is also because of the spirit of heaven and earth. Otherwise, even if you had gotten permission from Tian Ling, you would not be able to take one from me, Lao Tzu. Lu Ping hurriedly flattered him and said, "Senior granduncle is impartial and impartial. Otherwise, why would he ask you to guard Frost Island?" Seeing the satisfied expression on Tian Shui Laozu's face, Lu Ping quickly struck while the iron was hot and said, "Senior granduncle, how do you think the exchange method should be?" Tian Shui Laozu stopped smiling. She glanced at Lu Ping and said, "Normally, an earth middle grade spirit stone would be worth around 400 to 500 upper grade spirit stones. Although the spirit chi contained within a spirit stone is equivalent to 100 upper grade spirit stones, the rarity of spirit stones means that it is impossible to exchange using this method. However, this time, Lao Tzu, I will let you take advantage of me. Let's exchange it according to the exchange rate of 1 earth lower grade spirit stone for 1 spirit stone. How about it?" Lu Ping looked at Tian Shui Laozu's "you have taken advantage of me" expression. He couldn't help but smile bitterly and said, "Senior granduncle, you are the one who has taken advantage of me. No matter how precious the spirit stones are, it is impossible to exchange it according to your method. Otherwise, wouldn't this disciple's trip to the Middle Lands be in vain?" Tian Shui Laozu immediately sighed and said, "Brat, you don't know the value of rice and fuel unless you are in charge. Do you know how many spirit stones are produced in Frost Island's spirit stone vein every year? This batch of spirit stones can be said to be the most precious resource in the spirit stone vein. Every year, when the sects divide the spirit stones, more than half of their efforts are focused on this batch of spirit stones. This time, Lao Tzu, the reason why I agreed to exchange it with you is because of the things you have done for the sect. Otherwise, how could a core forging realm disciple have a share of spirit stones?" Lu Ping naturally knew what Tian Shui Laozu was talking about. If it wasn't for the sect's agreement, no matter how many spirit treasures Lu Ping had in his hands, he wouldn't be able to exchange them for spirit stones. To a Dharma plane cultivator, a spirit stone was equivalent to a spirit treasure to a core forging realm cultivator. Furthermore, the spirit chi contained within a spirit stone was pure and thick. When a cultivator used it to cultivate, it would rarely cause a wastage. Based on Lu Ping's current spirit chi capacity, even if Lu Ping used the method of seclusion, if the spirit chi within a spirit stone exploded, it would be enough for Lu Ping to practice the North Sea Wave listening art for 10 days and nights without rest. Of course, this situation was unrealistic. After the spirit stone exploded, most of the spirit chi would evaporate before it could be absorbed. In reality, a spirit stone's usage time was far longer than 10 days. This was because no matter which cultivator went into seclusion, they wouldn't just rely on spirit chi alone. Spirit veins and the spirit chi that drifted between heaven and earth were the foundation of a cultivator's cultivation. Spirit stones could only be used as a support. Furthermore, without using a secret technique like the spirit explosion art that could stimulate the spirit chi within a spirit stone in a short period of time, the spirit chi within the spirit stone couldn't be absorbed by the cultivator without a limit. If it was based on the spirit chi, the speed at which the spirit chi was released would be far from the speed at which the cultivator absorbed the spirit chi during the process of cultivation. Thus, no cultivator could purely rely on spirit stones to maintain their cultivation speed. However, spirit stones could maintain a stable spirit chi output rate. This was something that the spirit chi that drifted between heaven and earth and spirit veins couldn't achieve. However, during the process of cultivation, cultivators had an unusual pursuit for a stable supply of spirit chi. Thus, even though spirit stones could only be used as a support for a cultivator's cultivation, it was an indispensable support. The higher the quality of the spirit stone, the more it could adjust the spirit chi output rate during cultivation, allowing it to maintain a stable cultivation speed. This way, the spirit chi output rate wouldn't fluctuate and affect the cultivator's foundation. Lu Ping could only chuckle. That's good. We'll exchange according to Grand Uncle's standard. However, there are some heaven and earth spiritual items that have special effects. Their value far surpasses other spiritual items of the same rank. There's no need for disciple to say more. At worst, disciple can just keep it and not exchange it. Tian Shui Laozu sneered. How many do you have on you? Before Tian Shui Laozu's words could even finish, Lu Ping had already taken out over 20 boxes from his storage artifact. Tian Shui Laozu pointed at the spirit sealing boxes on the ground. Glaring at Lu Ping, she asked in a sharp voice, Are all these heaven and earth spiritual items? Where did you get so many spiritual items from? Lu Ping didn't say a word as he opened the spirit sealing boxes one by one. Some of the spirit sealing boxes contained the same spiritual items. Thus, there were more than 2 spiritual items inside. Thus, the total number of heaven and earth spiritual items in the 20 over boxes was more than 40. Tian Shui Laozu lowered her head to look at the spiritual items before raising her head to look at Lu Ping. However, she couldn't say a single word. Lu Ping also didn't say a word as he waited for Tian Shui Laozu to fulfill her promise. Tian Shui Laozu closed her eyes. No one knew what she was thinking. After a moment, she let out a long breath and said, Luckily, they are all mystic rank spiritual items. According to the principle of 1 for 3 exchange for different spiritual items, 3 upper-grade mystic rank spiritual items could be exchanged for 1 peak-grade spirit stone. Of course, if there was a spiritual item like the azure spiritual fire that was extremely useful for concocting pills, the value would be different. At least from Lu Ping's point of view, a upper-grade mystic rank azure spiritual fire was sufficient to exchange for 1 peak-grade spirit stone. Of course, the 40 or so spirit items weren't all from the mystic heavenly ancient city. There were also treasures that Lu Ping had accumulated through various means over the years. Among them, there were more than 10 mystic high-grade spirit items, more than 10 mystic mid-grade spirit items, and nearly 10 mystic low-grade spirit items. After a round of bargaining, Lu Ping only obtained a total of 10 peak-grade spirit stones. In the end, Tian Shui Laozu still gave Lu Ping another 2 peak-grade spirit stones as a reward since Lu Ping had obtained so many spiritual items for the sect. The total amount of peak-grade spirit stones that Lu Ping had accumulated over the years was only around this amount. Furthermore, he had used up a few peak-grade spirit stones to travel back and forth to the Middle Earth and executing the vast sea mulberry fields art. Tian Shui Laozu was satisfied as she kept all the spiritual sealing boxes that Lu Ping had placed on the ground. Fortunately, we have accumulated a batch of peak-grade spirit stones as a reserve. Otherwise, in order to obtain these spiritual items, I might have to summon my sect's Dharma idol, Laozu, to gather all the Dharma idol, Laozu. Lu Ping naturally knew that it wasn't because Laozu didn't have 8 to 10 peak-grade spirit stones on him. Instead, it was because it would be extremely difficult for him to have 8 to 10 peak-grade spirit stones on him. Lu Ping smiled. Martial uncle, how do you want to exchange for this restriction-breaking talisman? Tian Shui Laozu's brows twitched. Surprised, he asked. It's also a spiritual item? Lu Ping smiled. Yes. Tian Shui Laozu sat up straight and asked curiously. How many spiritual items do you have on you? Before the negotiation, Lu Ping naturally wouldn't reveal anything. He only said, This disciple only wants restriction-breaking talismans with at least 5 colors. Tian Shui Laozu sneered. What a big tone. Since you want to exchange, then I, Laozu, will not bicker with a junior like you. A 5-color restriction-breaking talisman for an earth mid-grade spiritual item. A 6-color restriction-breaking talisman for an earth high-grade spiritual item. A 7-color restriction-breaking talisman, and a heaven low-grade spiritual item. What? This time, it was Lu Ping's turn to be unable to sit still. Martial uncle, you must be joking. A 5-color restriction-breaking talisman for an Earth mid-grade spiritual item. It's just a talisman. You have already obtained the complete inheritance of Tian's sex restriction-breaking talisman. If you want to draw a restriction-breaking talisman, wouldn't it be a piece of cake? Why would you need an Earth mid-grade spiritual item? Tian Shuai-Laozi sneered. Brat, I won't ask you what you need the restriction-breaking talisman for. That restriction-breaking talisman inheritance came from you. I heard that you specialize in the creation of restriction-breaking talismans. Why don't you tell me, what kind of preparations are needed to draw a 5-color restriction-breaking talisman? Lu Ping's previous imposing manner immediately dissipated. The creation of a restriction-breaking talisman wasn't only because of its high difficulty. More importantly, the materials used to create it were expensive and hard to come by. Chapter 883. The creation of a talisman-breaking talisman could be said to be the pinnacle of all talismans. The difficulty of creating it was the highest, and the materials needed to create it were the most precious. However, the success rate was the lowest. The first requirement for a 5-color talisman to break through restrictions was a relatively complete piece of skin from a Dharma adept. It could be human skin or demon skin. It could even be made from various kinds of top-grade spiritual materials that were as good as the skin of a Dharma adept. A piece of Dharma adept skin, after being processed using various secret techniques, could at most be used to create 3 to 5 5-color talisman-breaking talisman papers. Other than that, the talisman brush used to create the talisman had to be a special treasure. Lu Ping had a talisman brush with him. Back then, when Xuanzhu had returned to the North Sea from the Central Plains, Lu Ping had asked for it from her. Although it was not considered a top-grade one, it was still not bad. As for the cinnabar ink used, it was made from the blood of a Dharma adept and other liquids that were filled with spiritual energy. As far as Lu Ping knew, there were several types of water-based spiritual objects that were the best to use to create the talisman cinnabar. The spirit vein essence milk was one of them. However, thinking about it, even Tian Shuai-Laozi might not be willing to use the spirit vein essence milk. Even if these things were prepared, the 5-colored talisman-breaking talisman was not something that could be created easily. The success rate of creating a 5-colored talisman-breaking talisman was much lower than the success rate of creating a Dharma adept elixir. Of course, it also depended on the level of the talisman maker. As for the 7-colored talisman-breaking talisman, the requirements were even higher. As far as Lu Ping knew, just the talisman paper used to create the talisman had to be the skin of a mid-Dharma adept. Furthermore, it had to be the skin of a few special types of beasts. Other beast skins had to be at least the skin of a senior demon cultivator to be used to create the 7-colored talisman-breaking talisman. Senior demon cultivators were the Dharma adepts among the demon cultivators. How many of their skins could be preserved in the cultivation world? If this was the case, for Lu Ping to be able to use a mid-grade Earth-level spiritual object to exchange for a 5-colored talisman-breaking talisman, it was truly a preferential treatment given by the sect. If it was someone else, even if they were to take out a heaven-level spiritual object to exchange for a 5-colored talisman-breaking talisman, Tian Shuai-Laozi would reject it without hesitation. A 5-colored talisman-breaking 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 talisman, and above was considered a trump card in any sect. It was almost impossible for it to be traded. Helplessly, Lu Ping took out 5 spirit-sealing boxes and said, Senior Grand Master, Senior Grand Master, breaking talisman, 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 breaking talisman. The heavenly snow forefather glared at him with a pair of murderous eyes and said, Just how many Earth-grade phase do you have on you? Lu Ping hurriedly said, No, there are only these 5 mid-grade Earth-rank items. Tian Shuai-Laozi had an expression of disbelief as he replied, Don't even think about 5 5-colored restriction-breaking talismans. According to the sect's rules, we will definitely not give the talisman to an individual. Even rewards are out of the question. However, Tian Ling and senior brother Tian Xiang have spoken up for you. I, Laozu, can only give you 3 at most. Lu Ping was helpless. He could only retrieve the 2 jade boxes on the ground. As for Tian Shui Laozu, when she saw Lu Ping's actions, she unhappily threw out 3 spiritual sealing boxes. Lu Ping didn't even look at them before keeping them. After that, Lu Ping took out 2 boxes and grinned as he said, Martial Granduncle, these are 2 high-grade Earth rank spirit objects. 2 6-colored restriction-breaking talismans. Tian Shui Laozu was currently on the verge of flying into a rage. However, she was, after all, the first generation of Jinling's Laozu. Thus, she couldn't bear to part with the 2 high-grade Earth rank spirit objects that Lu Ping had taken out. This represented that Jinling could nurture at least 2 cultivators who could reach the Transcendence realm in the future. Using it to exchange for 2 5-colored restriction-breaking talismans was a huge loss. Tian Shui Laozu then threw the 2 boxes containing the 6-colored restriction-breaking talismans to Lu Ping. Brat, do you know that for the past few decades I, Laozu, have been researching the refinement of restriction-breaking talismans? I've used up most of the precious spiritual materials in our sect's reserves. Yet I've only managed to refine a few 5-colored and above restriction-breaking talismans. Lu Ping scratched his head and said, Of course, this is our sect's secret. Martial Granduncle wouldn't tell this disciple about it. However, the success rate should be extremely low. As Lu Ping finished speaking, he took out the 2 jade boxes. This time, he opened the jade box. Inside, there was a low-grade heaven-rank metal spirit object, sky gold stone. The other one was also a low-grade heaven-rank metal spirit object, but it was a wood attributed wood root. Tian Shui Laozu looked at the 2 low-grade heaven-rank spirit objects on the ground. However, he didn't take out the 7-colored restriction-breaking talisman that Lu Ping was looking forward to. Instead, he asked curiously, Why do you need so many restriction-breaking talismans? Could it be that you've discovered some incredible ancient treasure? Lu Ping smiled faintly. It's just to be prepared. What if this disciple finds an ancient cultivator's cave dwelling? If I'm unable to open the restriction and lose the opportunity to obtain the treasures, this disciple will definitely regret it to death. Tian Shui Laozu saw that Lu Ping wasn't willing to tell her the reason, so she didn't ask anymore. Instead, she took out a jade box and threw it to Lu Ping. If it's really an ancient cave dwelling, the things inside might not be something that you can eat alone. Even if you can, you won't be able to use that much. Remember to inform the sect about the rest. Lu Ping cried out in grievance. Martial Granduncle is looking down on this disciple. All these years, when did this disciple eat alone? Tian Shui Laozu snorted coldly. You won't eat alone. You're just letting others eat the leftovers. Lu Ping opened the box, and a dense 7-colored radiance burst forth. Lu Ping hastily closed the box again. Martial Granduncle, please give me another one. This disciple has 2 heaven-ranked spirit objects here. Tian Shui Laozu sneered. In the entire sect, there are only a few 7-colored restriction-breaking talismans. Even if you take out a high-grade heaven-ranked spirit object, this Laozu will not give you another one. Lu Ping knew that in the entire Jinling sect, only Tian Shui Laozu had the ability to create a 7-colored restriction-breaking talisman. If she didn't relent, this 7-colored restriction-breaking talisman could only be created after Lu Ping had advanced to the Transcendence realm. However, she wanted the skin of a demonic beast equivalent to a grand cultivator. Lu Ping couldn't help but shiver. Lu Ping thought for a moment and said, Martial Granduncle, when Tian Dojo opened, this disciple contributed a 7-colored restriction-breaking talisman. Furthermore, because of this restriction-breaking talisman, our sect was able to choose a spiritual treasure and a pill furnace before the other sections. What do you think? Tian Shui Laozu's mouth couldn't help but twitch. She reluctantly took out another jade box and threw it at Lu Ping. She scolded, Get lost, get lost. Don't let me, Laozu, see you again. Lu Ping grabbed the jade box in a flurry. He didn't even care about the 2 heaven-ranked spiritual treasures on the ground. He turned and fled out of the palace. When Tian Shui Laozu saw that Lu Ping had left the palace, she angrily said, "Senior brother, are you really going to spoil this brat? What was the meaning of those words earlier? Are you reminding us not to disappoint him?" "Ha ha!" Tian Xiang Laozu's voice suddenly rang out in the palace. However, Tian Xiang Laozu was nowhere to be seen. Tian Xiang continued, "He doesn't have such thoughts. However, it's true that he wants to show off his contributions. It's just that he has to do it often." When we were young, when did we like to be restricted by rules? How can the disciples that were nurtured according to the sex rules have any future? If Xinling wants to rise and become stronger, we must try our best to tolerate these disciples that don't follow the rules. Tolerance is great. Tian Shui Laozu only grumbled for a while before she immediately changed the topic. She said worriedly, "Recently, Mara's probing attacks on Frost Island have become more frequent. Mara has also started to appear without restraint. It seems like once Mara's calamity breaks out on a large scale in the North Sea, Frost Island will definitely be the first to bear the brunt." Tian Xiang Laozu's voice only sounded after a while. He said, "It can be considered as expected. Mara has an extraordinary intuition towards spirit veins and spirit ores. Frost Island is a high-quality large-scale spirit mine. It's normal for Mara to covet it. This time, if Mara's calamity is calculated well, it might be an opportunity for our sect." Tian Shui Laozu was stunned. She said, "What, senior brother, you mean, Jinling is growing stronger day by day, and there are more and more Dharma adepts? Even that brat has started to accumulate supreme-grade spirit stones in order to advance to the Dharma stage. How can the little amount of supreme-grade spirit stones that our sect gets from Frost Island be enough?" Just as Lu Ping left the palace, a violent spiritual energy vibration came from the northwest corner of the palace. Following that, a rather large vibration spread out, and the surrounding spiritual energy began to slowly gather towards that direction. Someone had broken through to the core forging stage, and from the looks of it, his foundation was pretty good. He was a good seedling. However, the aura that exploded out was very familiar to Lu Ping. Lu Ping's divine consciousness spread out. The formation in the secret room where the friar was in seclusion could not stop Lu Ping's divine consciousness from peeping in. Venerable Du Feng, who was guarding outside the secret room, seemed to have sensed something. He looked in the direction where Lu Ping was, and a dense sword aura with a murderous aura rushed towards Lu Ping from afar. Lu Ping felt Du Feng's sword aura and could not help but frown. Just how many people has this guy killed all these years? The murderous aura on his body is almost solid. No wonder the bandit name, Emotionless Sword, has been abandoned, and he has to be called Sword Azura. However, Lu Ping also knew that this was a requirement for Du Feng's cultivation technique and swordsmanship. Although he sighed inwardly, he did not take it to heart. Instead, he turned his attention back to Wang Qi, who had just advanced to the core forging stage. The murderous aura that Venerable Du Feng cultivated was extremely harmful to a cultivator's divine consciousness. Originally, when he saw that someone was spying on him, Du Feng only wanted to give a warning. After all, the divine consciousness that flew over at this time could only be from his own sect. However, he did not expect that the person's divine consciousness would be so strange. It turned a blind eye to Venerable Du Feng's murderous aura. Instead, it became even more intense as it observed Wang Qi, who was in the secret room. Venerable Du Feng's expression changed, and his right hand grabbed the hilt of the flying sword. However, he immediately sensed something and let out a long sigh of relief. Not only did he retract his right hand, but he also withdrew the flying sword into his core space. At this moment, a golden flying sword with fine fish scales on its surface flew across the sky. Before Venerable Du Feng could react, the golden flying sword had already entered the secret room where Wang Qi was in seclusion. Chapter 884. Spiritual Master Dufeng frowned when he saw the golden sword light disappear into the secret room, but in the end, he didn't barge in. In the secret chamber, Wang Qi, who had just advanced to the core forging stage, suppressed the ecstasy that came with the advancement of his cultivation. Just as he was about to go into closed-door cultivation to completely stabilize his cultivation, he heard the sound of a sword whistling through the air. The protective array formation in the secret chamber was instantly shattered, and a golden flying sword appeared in front of Wang Qi. Seeing this familiar flying sword, Wang Qi was excited and wanted to stand up. Unexpectedly, the flying sword seemed to have expected this. It slammed the back of the sword into Wang Qi's shoulder and pressed him back onto the ground. The sword light circled around and stabbed into the 1,000-year frost in front of Wang Qi, sinking half of it into the sword. Only then did Wang Qi notice that there was a purple jade slip on the tassel of the sword hilt. This golden sword light was naturally the golden scales sword that Lu Ping had used for the longest time. The golden scales sword had condensed 6 treasures and was a top spiritual artifact. However, it was difficult to improve its quality, and the golden scales sword was refined using a secret art of the Koi clan. Without the inheritance of the Koi clan's secret art, the golden scales sword wouldn't be able to reach the spirit nurturing level no matter how high its quality was. That was why Lu Ping had abandoned it in the end. However, for someone like Wang Qi who had just advanced to the core forging realm, this artifact was already a valuable treasure. However, even though the golden scales sword was precious, Wang Qi couldn't wait to see the purple jade slip tied to the sword tassel. Lu Ping stayed on Frost Island for more than a month. Mara's clan attacked Frost Island twice more, but these 2 attacks weren't aimed at Jinling's area. One of the 2 attacks was aimed at Ocean Flame Sect's area, and Mara's clan was repelled by the combined forces of several sections. However, this time, the intensity of the ambush was clearly higher than before. Several late core forging great Azuras hid in a corner and suddenly launched an attack. The Ocean Flame Sect and the other sects didn't have Jinling Sect's mother-child traction array. It was said that many blood condensation realm cultivators had fallen. Even core forging realm cultivators couldn't save them in time. 5 to 6 of them had died, and one of them was even a late core forging realm cultivator. The second attack was more than 10 days later. This time, it was aimed at one of the 12 allied forces. Even though they had been alerted and strengthened their defenses beforehand, they still couldn't stop the attack. Countless Mara Great Azuras broke through the island's protective formation and started a massacre on the island. By the time the other forces' reinforcements arrived, this force had lost a third of its guards on Frost Island. The other forces had also suffered losses. The cultivators on Frost Island all thought that this was Mara's revenge for their failure to attack Shenling's area last time. Xianling Sect and Blue Sea Sect wanted to use this opportunity to incite the 12 forces to oppose Shenling. Unexpectedly, Profound Sky Laozu called Spiritual Master Xianxin over from Heaven's Spirit Mountain and built a mother-child traction formation in the area where the 12 forces were stationed. At the same time, he also strengthened the island's protective formation in Jinling's area. As a result, not only did the 12 forces not oppose Jinling at all, they were actually grateful to Jinling. Before Lu Ping left Frost Island, he was called to the palace by Profound Sky Laozu. I heard that you've been collecting lightning tribulation water recently. Are you preparing to condense your golden core? Lu Ping didn't know where Tian Shui Laozu got this information from, but Lu Ping didn't deny it either. He said directly, "That's right," Tian Shui Laozu said with a hint of envy. "Heaven rank upper grade spirit item. Ever since our sect relied on Laozu, it has been thousands of years since anyone was able to condense a 9th grade golden core. The lightning tribulation water you're refining this time is said to be the hardest to refine among all heaven rank upper grade spirit items. How confident are you now?" Although Lu Ping didn't know why Tian Shui Laozu asked about this, he still answered vaguely. "This disciple wants to give it a try. There's always a certain amount of confidence." Tian Shui Laozu didn't care about Lu Ping's intentional concealment. She nodded her head and took out a jade bottle with a spirit-breeding talisman stuck on it. she said. "There are 4 drops of lightning tribulation water in here. They were condensed when your senior ancestor Tian Fan and I went through the lightning tribulation. It's not easy to send out a disciple who has the potential to condense a 9th grade golden core. If you can use this lightning tribulation water, just treat it as a reward from the sect." Lu Ping happily received the lightning tribulation water. After thanking Tian Shui Laozu, he was about to leave when he heard Tian Shui Laozu say, "When you return to Tianling Mountain, go to the Talisman Crafting Pavilion to take a look. Perhaps Xianju might have some extra 5-colored restriction-breaking talismans." Lu Ping's heart moved as he thanked Tian Shui Laozu. Unexpectedly, he heard Tian Shui Laozu say, "Your senior master Xianju's cultivation has already reached the stage where she's about to refine her 3rd spiritual item. With her current situation, I'm afraid she won't be able to condense a high-grade golden core. You have to think of a way. After all, Xianju's talent in talisman crafting can be said to be number 1 in our sect." If she can't advance to the Transcendence Realm, it would be too much of a pity. After returning to Tianling Mountain, Lu Ping headed towards the Talisman Crafting Pavilion. Although Daoist Xianju's cultivation wasn't good, he was a true talisman crafting genius. Due to his cultivation, Daoist Xianju could only craft the 5-colored restriction-breaking talisman. At the very least, Lu Ping's current cultivation wasn't any weaker than Daoist Xianju's. However, when it came to crafting restriction-breaking talismans, he was still stuck at the 4-colored restriction-breaking talisman. He was unable to successfully craft the 5-colored restriction-breaking talisman. Furthermore, according to what Lu Ping knew, Daoist Xianju's current success rate in crafting the 5-colored restriction-breaking talisman was not any lower than Tian Shui Laozu. The only pity was that Daoist Xianju's cultivation foundation was too weak. According to Tian Shui Laozu's estimation, even if he were to forcefully refine a 3rd spiritual item, Daoist Xianju would at most be able to condense a 4th or 5th grade golden core. It was almost impossible for him to advance to the Transcendence Realm. During this trip to Frost Island, Tian Shui Laozu had privately asked Lu Ping if he had any methods to forcefully raise Daoist Xianju's cultivation to the Transcendence Realm. The meaning behind her words was very clear. She was asking if Lu Ping could use the spiritual forging pill to give Daoist Xianju a sliver of hope to advance to the Transcendence Realm. This caused Lu Ping to be in a dilemma. With Daoist Xianju's current situation, even if he consumed all 3 spiritual forging pills, he might not even be able to condense a 6th grade golden core. As for the 7th grade golden core, he shouldn't even think about it. Although the spiritual forging pill could raise the rank of a golden core, there was a limit to it. 3 spiritual forging pills could raise a cultivator's golden core by 1 or 2 levels, which was already the limit. To give Daoist Xianju a sliver of hope to advance to the Transcendence Realm was almost impossible. Furthermore, although Lu Ping had grasped the method to concoct the spiritual forging pill, the amount of spiritual herbs required to concoct a batch of spiritual forging pills was simply too large. There were a few extremely rare 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs that even the entire Zhenling only had a few of. The success rate of concocting the pills was also very low. Furthermore, according to Daoist Xianju's current situation, he might need to consume 3 spiritual forging pills in one go. Furthermore, he might not even be able to condense a 7th grade golden core. If it was just for her, it was truly not worth it. However, Tian Shui Laozu's reasoning was something that Lu Ping agreed with. After all, Daoist Xianju was a rare talisman crafting genius in Zhenling. If he could advance to the Transcendence Realm, his success rate in concocting the 7-colored restriction-breaking talisman might even be higher than Tian Shui Laozu. Furthermore, the path of talisman crafting was broad and profound. Since Daoist Xianju was able to advance to the Transcendence Realm, the talisman crafting technique in Zhenling would not only improve on the restriction-breaking talisman. Lu Ping's arrival at the Talisman Crafting Pavilion had caused Daoist Xianju to be rather surprised. When Tian Shui Laozu had been guarding the Frost Island, and like the previous generation's Laozu, she had gradually faded away from Jinling's affairs. Thus, the person in charge of the talisman crafting pavilion was Taoist Xianzhu. Hearing that Lu Ping wanted to exchange for some 5-colored restriction-breaking talismans, Taoist Xianzhu muttered to himself for a moment before saying, "According to logic, these talismans cannot be exchanged with Martial Nephew in private. However, since Martial Nephew wishes to use spiritual items to exchange for them, Martial Uncle will make an exception for once. However, I can only give Martial Nephew 2 of them. I wonder if Martial Nephew can exchange them for a high-grade earth spiritual item?" Although the value was slightly higher than Tian Shui Laozu's, it was still within Lu Ping's acceptable range. Lu Ping handed a high-grade earth spiritual item to Taoist Xianzhu and said, "Martial Uncle, are you preparing to smelt the spiritual item?" Taoist Xianzhu smiled bitterly and said, "It's still too early. If I were to smelt the spiritual item now, I, Martial Uncle, would not be able to use this high-grade earth spiritual item. At most, it would be a 4th-grade golden core. Although the chances are slim, I still have to try. As long as I can condense a 6th-grade golden core, I will at least have a chance to advance to the Transcendence realm." Lu Ping took the restriction-breaking talisman and asked casually, "Why haven't I seen senior sister Xianzhu since returning to Tianling Mountain?" Taoist Xianzhu was Taoist Xianzhu's disciple. He was also the cultivator with the highest attainment in talisman crafting amongst the 3rd-generation disciples of Jinling. Although Taoist Xianzhu's talent in talisman crafting might not be comparable to his teacher, Taoist Xianzhu, his cultivation was much more reliable than Taoist Xianzhu's. He was one of the transcendent seedlings that Jinling would focus on nurturing in the future. Lu Ping was originally just asking casually. Unexpectedly, Taoist Xianzhu replied, "You should know about the situation outside of Huanyu Island. Recently, it seems like it's getting more and more restless. The demon race and Azure Sea sect's cultivation have already clashed several times. Although our sect will not directly intervene, it is necessary to understand the situation beforehand." Many of our 3rd-generation disciples have been sent out to monitor the movements of both sides. Your senior sister Xianzhu has also gone. Lu Ping said in surprise, "Is there really the legacy of Azure Sea sect's Laozu there?" Taoist Xianzhu shook his head and said, "Who can say for sure? But it's hard to say. Originally, there were rumors that the hidden treasure could only be opened by combining the thin water and flowing sword left behind by Azure Sea sect's Laozu. Currently, Azure Sea sect only has the thin water sword. The flowing sword has never been found. However, this time, Azure Sea sect seems to have obtained some treasure in Yingtian Dojo that can be used as a substitute for the flowing sword to open the hidden treasure." Lu Ping nodded thoughtfully. After asking Taoist Xianzhu some important talisman crafting techniques, he immediately took his leave. Lu Ping returned to his cave residence on Tianling Mountain. 3 days later, Tianlin Laozu summoned Lu Ping with a sound-transmitting talisman. Lu Ping knew that since old ancestor Jiang Tianlin had called him over at this time, he must have made preparations to go out and find a place to undergo his first lightning tribulation. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.